Well, folks, you did it again. You made it to Friday right here on 710 KUS, The George Show. It is the 18th of August. We're on the downward slide into September, if you can believe that. The weather showing nothing but heat and lightning bolts, more than there have ever been on this sheet in this past week. So today, lightning bolts in the afternoon, Saturday, Sunday, but the temperature is all about mid-90s. Monday, 99 degrees. Nothing but a big, blazing, Phoenix-like sun right there on this pictogram from our friends at Denver 7. Tuesday, it drops to 97, sun with a little bit of a cloud on it. Wednesday, partly cloudy, 93. And then next Thursday, and again, nobody knows because this thing has changed 3 times this week with the lightning bolts. Another lightning bolt storm's likely on Thursday at 88 degrees. Just as a heads up, next week, I will be doing the show remotely on Wednesday, actually, from a beautiful place called Lexington, Kentucky, for a quick 36 hours in and out, talking to the Kentucky prosecutors.
Nice. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I had really thought I would make it a longer trip and enjoy more of the bourbon offerings that are there. I just can't do it, man. There is so much going on. I can't be away for more than it takes me to travel out there, do my thing, and travel back. Hell, I'd have done it in a day if there were any flights coming back that made any sense. I mean, as it is, there are no direct flights I can find from like Denver to Lexington.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Louisville.
Seems
but
odd.
not Lexington. And so I'm flying into Chicago and out of here, and it's just like, good Lord. But I spend probably half as much time traveling as I do on the ground in Kentucky, but it just has to get done. You know what I mean? Like when you're asked to do something and you think it's a good deal and it's going to advance the ball for some folks, and
they give you the monies. So
they give you the monies. And then, you agree to these things many, many months in advance. And I love these people. I've been out to talk to the Kentucky prosecutors before. It may have been the first time I spoke for them years ago. I remember going in to the hotel, and I asked the nice lady, her name's Susan Blake, super nice lady. And I said, hey, can you just show me where I'm going to be talking tomorrow? I just want to get a sense of the layout and where I got blah, blah, blah. And we walk into this thing. It looks like a hangar filled with chairs. I mean, super nice hangar. And I go, whoa, how many people are going to be here? She's like, about 1,000.
Oh,
and I go, 1,000? I'm like, I make pee at north of 200. So this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, I only have my 200-person speech here. I didn't my 1,000-person
right.
speech.
I'm really going to have to amplify. She said, no, we have a lavalier. You're all good. So, but it's a great group. I've been out there a couple times, and I just wish I could make more of a work/vacay out of it, but I can't. But nonetheless, I'm taking the silver. I'm taking the nuclear football with me. So we'll be doing the show live.
I'd love to see you walk through the airport with that, because I remember going through, and I've done a couple of travels with remotes, other radio stations, and you carry that big silver suitcase.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Everybody looks at you like, you must be important. You must be.
Or
there
what's
must
going
on?
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
or,
is this see something, say something?
Exactly. Yeah. Or do I need to look at you and then be able to identify you later in a lineup? It's
right.
One or two responses.
Like, I get the feeling there's a group of people out there that if I looked different than I do, might instantly go to security and be like, that guy looks suspicious.
Very suspicious.
Rather than an old, white, gray-haired dude, there'd be like, that guy is up to no good. I can tell.
Might I suggest a body cavity search?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was murmuring something about a bomb earlier.
Yes,
I think that's what I heard him say.
Yes, I'm certain of it.
Yeah, he's looking for a cavity search, and I think he's got a couple on him. Let's go get it. So I have that going on next week. But we were talking off air earlier about yesterday. You had the opportunity to be up there in beautiful Fort Collins. You were closer to my son than I was for the last few days.
I was thinking
how did it go?
It went well. I was thinking about that when I was driving up. I was like, wonder where the engineering building is and the dorm is. I was kind of curious about that because I don't know. That's not
by the academic village.
Okay. Because he'd gone to the academic
village. Like you could throw a rock.
Yeah. Oh, it's not bad. Then not too far away from my son. My son was in Aggie Village, and I was hesitant. My wife had done the online research. We got up there. Oh, and everything fit into the back of the car.
Nice work.
Included the bike. And
did you have to deflate the tires or bend it?
It fit. And it was funny because Spencer and I are looking at the back and we're like, I don't think the bike will fit. I don't think the bike will fit. And my wife looks at both of us and she goes, I am disappointed in your lack of initiative. She goes, try, do it. And I'm like, fine.
She went Yoda on you.
Yeah, she did. And I'm kind of like, okay. And at first I'm going, okay, I'm going to try this just to make sure that, to see how this works. And and we moved a couple, and it didn't work at first, and we moved a couple of things in the back, and then I was able to. We kind of sushi'd it back into there, kind of like rolling it in and moving it a little bit of ways. And so it worked. And so, although I could see nothing out of the back window of the car, but that's
you don't
okay.
need that.
No, that's who cares about safety. So got up there, unloaded very quickly. He's in Aggie Village, and wow. Oh my gosh, that's a change from last year. Yeah, last year, he was in the cheese dorm. At least that's what we referred to it as.
Because of the smell or because it was made of cheese?
No, because of the smell. The hallway in his dorm smelled like old cheese. I think this dorm was maybe built in like 1974.
What floor is he on now?
Third floor.
Is there an elevator?
Yes.
Okay,
that's it's really nice. Yeah, 2 elevators and the hallways. It looks more like a hotel, and it is fan-freaking-tastic. Big windows that go from like in maybe 2 feet from the floor all the way to the ceiling, going all the way across the wall. It is.
Wait a minute, what year is he?
He's a sophomore.
Did he win the lottery or something?
I have no idea. And it has a kitchen in there, and he's in there with 3 other people that he knows and that he hangs with. And oh my gosh, there's a common area in the front, and so you can hang with people or you can go back. Oh, and this is the best part: it is pet friendly.
What?
Yes, it is pet friendly.
Pet friendly?
No, well, he hates my snakes.
Yeah. Wow.
I think I've told the.
That's a gap.
Yeah, it is. I think I've told the story before where. I like to figure out measuring the sheds, the snake. And I had one of them on the kitchen table. And he's like, that's disgusting. What do you do? I'm like, it's only the shed of the snake. This is what am I? And he looks at me and goes, no, you don't understand. In this conversation, you're the weird one. Okay, you're right. Yes, you're right.
That part's true.
I understand. Okay, yes.
Stipulated.
Yeah, I understand that one. So, but they've got a cat. Yeah, so one of his roommates has a cat. A really pretty Russian blue. So I met the cat yesterday too. So I think this is just awesome.
So they have a pet up there?
Yeah, they've got a cat already. Yeah. The roommate isn't there. Yeah.
Is it an in-dorm cat? I mean,
it's just indoor. Yeah, just stays indoor.
It can roam the halls or something?
Oh, no, just stays inside the room.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Super
no
cool,
interest in escaping? Because dorm doors don't tend to stay closed.
No, they don't. But we went in and out several times, and Kitty had no interest at all.
Who owns the kitty?
One of the other people in the apartments.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. And that was fantastic. I was like, I can't believe this. I thought at first I'm like, oh, you snuck it in. He's like, no, it's pet friendly. Like,
yeah.
Wait, what? And then I see people walking dogs, and he's like, I can't wait to meet everybody else's dogs and cats. I'm like, this is awesome.
That's impressive, unless you're allergic.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you've got that cat thing going on.
Yeah, so it was really cool. And so helped them get set up a little bit, went to lunch, and then spent like $100 at Trader Joe's. And I was able,
one item.
Yes. But I was able to flex my my shopping prowess. And
thank God you said that.
and I'm going through and I'm showing him, no, buy this and this. And, this is a better deal than that is based on price and ounces. And he looks at me at one point. He's like, you're really good at this. Like, how do you think that I feed 6 people in the house?
I've been spending money on food for years.
Yeah, this is a game for me. It really is. Grocery stores are a game for me anymore. And so I'm showing him, no, get this. And there are extra things I'm throwing in the basket and stuff. And he's like, oh, that too. I'm like, oh yeah, you'll need this, this. And he like grabs this little tiny bag of chips. I'm like, no. I go, here, 2 of the larger ones. I go, this is going to be a better than if you bought one of the smaller ones.
Man, it almost feels like you should have gone to Costco, get that 5-gallon drum of mayo or something. And
I have no idea where he would keep it though. And I love the idea.
With the cat.
Yeah. And we did bring a small fridge for his room as well. So they have a full-size fridge. And then he just wanted a small fridge for just stuff that he can just throw in his room, snacks and things like that. And so he was asking me, he's like, do you think this will stay in them? No, that's not going to fit there. Put this here.
How big a fridge, cubic feet wise?
Oh God, I think it's like 3 by 3 more or less. So it's not too. The one in his room is not very big. It's a small one, but they've got a full size in the kitchen.
Oh, they do,
and a dishwasher, which I was super jealous about. Dishwasher. Oh yeah, and in their little apartment area, over under laundry, washer dryer.
Really?
Yes.
Do any of them know how to use those items? Because I'm not sure I would have at that age.
We're going to find out. He can, although doesn't always, but I know he has been instructed. However, I do have to give a big shout out to my mom. That was one of the best things that she did. I still remember I was maybe 13, about 12, 13. And I, in my, teenage righteousness and indignancy, came up to her and was like, how come this thing I went to wear today is not clean? I need to make a complaint to the manager. And she looked at me and she said, come here, stupid. And she walked me downstairs.
That's a loving mom.
Yes, and showed me exactly how to use the washing machine and the dryer. And she says, if it is not done at the time in which is to your satisfaction, here you go. So after that, I'm like, good point. So washed most of my clothes after that. So the kids also, like the girls have a thing about not bringing their clothes down to where the laundry room is. And so they have to do it on their own. We've taught them. Like, if you're not going to bring the stuff down, I'm not going to do it.
Where do they put it? I mean, where do they put their clothes?
Basically all over the place. I mean, are you talking about my girls or Spencer?
Yeah.
And my girls, just everywhere. It looks like their closet has thrown up. I'm not exaggerating.
Room.
Yes, at least in the room. But it does look like their closet and their dresser has just vomited. So I have no idea. Yeah. But I try to ignore that.
Graham's a future stripper, I think, because as soon as he walks in, things just start coming off.
I know.
And I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Oh no, I'm going to get it later. I'm like, no, you're not. Don't lie to me.
No.
You're lying to yourself.
Yes, exactly. I live here. I've seen this before.
Yeah. This will be here tomorrow. It will be here every day.
Exactly.
And then he'll do something good, and I don't know.
And so we drove up. I did. It's the conversation. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you'll get that with Trey too.
Yeah.
Is the conversation while you're driving is fantastic. So did that, came back, and that was lonely. It's always very, very lonely. So, but yeah, I did several hundred miles yesterday.
You got a couple more years of this though, man.
I know. And then I've got the girls too. So we'll see. So, but I understand that you were challenging me for King of the Road yesterday. That you
I drove so much. It was so miserable. I mean, leaving from here, I had to instantly I'm on a Zoom for this other work that I do since the radio pays so much. And then I had to go to a board meeting for a fantastic organization called the Home Builders Foundation. I mentioned them before. They retrofit homes to make them accessible for disabled people.
Oh, my goodness. That is amazing.
They do incredible work.
Wow.
And some great news, by the way, about a place called Santiago's. You may have heard of this place. Big, awesome burritos and stuff.
We have some bad news about that later, but we'll talk about this.
Yeah, huge. Well, there was a story about that.
Yeah,
right. That was bad.
Later,
but unrelated to the quality of their food or the size of their heart, because they're responsible for a huge donation through a golf tournament that they do. Anyway, that was good. But I had to do that. I had to leave that, get on another Zoom to drive on my way to KDVR. They asked me to do something called Colorado Point of View.
Heard of it.
And so I had to put on a shirt and a tie and a jacket.
Like adult clothes.
Yeah, like adult clothes. Ugh. So drove from here back to home, back to where the hell is the Home Builders Foundation? Centennial Greenwood Village, I don't know. And then up to Denver and then back down just in time to go get Jeff waiting in an interminable line. God bless that boy, because when I texted him and said, hey, I'm here, I'm in this long line, he just walked across, rather than wait at the edge of the parking lot, which would have been another 20 minutes of, he walked across, we hopped in the car, I flipped a U.
No, he did that?
Oh, yeah, it was brilliant.
Oh,
and got out of there.
So
I was
jealous.
so happy.
Oh.
And then we drove home, hung out for a little bit, but then I had to come back and get Graham from cross country, head back home. Jeff made dinner, which was great, made some burritos, which were good. And then hopped in the car, took him to fencing, then Graham up to a baseball hitting thing.
Oh,
had to stay up there. It was up by the old DA's office.
Oh, yeah.
Drove back down, dropped him off, went to go pick up Jeff from fencing, came back home, and all of a sudden it's 8:20.
Oh, my Lord.
That's my freaking day. It was just bam. It was just gone. I'm like, what in the hell am I doing?
Oh, what? That's not good.
That's a super cool kind of thing, though. It made me sound very Robbie Robot or something.
Yeah, I don't. That's weird.
Well, it was very Doctor Who.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean?
The thing is, I was trying to play the Doctor Exterminate.
Yeah, Exterminate.
Yeah, and they were called the
Daleks?
Yes, nicely done.
Boom. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm a Doctor Who fan. So.
No.
I wanted to play
we're big Dalek fans.
See, I wanted to play the YouTubes, but I'm getting an echo. And my thing here is muted, and so I don't know why this.
Yeah, there's a link to my business yesterday. In fact, Colorado Point of View is really on this weekend. I think it plays on Sunday. You'll have the opportunity to see that.
Let me do this. I'm gonna have to let this. We're gonna do this on the air. I'm gonna have to close my camera. I'll tell Mark. I will rejoin in a second, but I've got to do this in order to make it go away so that I can. Why is that doing that? Why?
Exterminate.
What the hell is going on?
As soon as you do it, man, I'm slipping into Dalek.
I know
talk.
Wait, here, let's try that. No, why? I don't know. Okay. Well, evidently the computer doesn't like me today. We may not be able to play that. That sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
I'm
so
you're
sorry.
All dressed pretty and everything.
Because I put on clean clothes. The one thing I noticed about I can't hear anything I play here in the studio, but I looked at the video and I was concerned with how much I've aged. I see myself on there and I'm like, Jesus, what happened to me? Have I never met lotion like in my earlier years that why do I have wrinkles there? Like, what am I doing with my mouth on a regular basis?
What I would do is the key is when you're on TV and just blame it on the lighting. Say it's the lighting.
It's too good. The lighting's too good.
It's just, they did it wrong. They didn't have the right kind of lights.
The way they have the desk, they had to frost the underneath part of it because it was see-through glass. And now that Ashley's doing it, she wears dresses and skirts and stuff. And all of a sudden that see-through thing at that angle, not very favorable.
Again, I've seen this a lot.
Yeah.
Why are we going with the see-through desks
Don't know.
at the TV?
Don't know.
At the TV. I don't understand. There was one show I was watching where they have the see-through desk and then they have shelving to the side where they can put their cell phones and their drinks and stuff.
What?
And that is clear. It's not local, it's national. And I'm like, why would you do that?
What's going on?
Who is the a-hole that says, you know what I think would
gotta
be
a dude.
The fact that I can see through the desk.
Gotta be a dude.
I'm sorry, but have you ever been watching the TV broadcast and gone, what are they doing with their legs?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Are they wearing
that?
pants?
Exactly. I've never wondered that. Why do I have to have a see-through desk? I just don't. I'm sorry.
So they frosted the glass, but you can still make out I'm wearing my Captain America kicks, the red, white, and blues.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah, that's good. And then jeans, because I'm not sure I fit into my suits anymore. And two, I don't want to wear suits if I can avoid it.
Not at all. They're stupid.
No, they fit snugly, and it makes me question my lifestyle choices.
Yeah, it's not good.
All of my health issues that are poor at this point can be easily traced back to what we're doing right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is getting up at this hour, doing this show, and running headlong into work for the rest of the day.
People always wonder why it looks like most people in radio have either some sort of personality disorder or an eating disorder.
Or both.
This is it. Yes. This is basically it. Yeah. This is why it is.
Yeah. So it was a hell of a day. Today will be a little bit better. We've got some baseball for Graham. And then I'm pretty sure that we're going to try to drive up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And go see, I'm sold on this, and go see Trey, maybe grab some lunch, and then see his finished product of his room, see what his mom and sister did, and then head back down. And then all of a sudden it's Sunday, and I'm starting to sweat the idea that we have to come up with a show for Monday.
Oh, don't wait. We got Monday's show is already going to be there because the Donald is going to be doing his wonderful song.
Oh, the reveal.
At 9. Yeah, the reveal. Although there's talk now that it may not happen. So we'll have to see.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Why won't it happen? I don't understand.
Because of lawyers.
It's going to exculpate him.
I know, but because of lawyers. There's no way. If you were the lawyer, would you allow him to go and do that?
Yeah, but when
you
say allow, it's as if to suggest that somehow anybody has influence over him.
Fair point.
This is a dude that has ignored everybody from the word go. If it's me and I think this thing is going to blow up the perception of this case, I drop that bomb in a hurry.
Yeah, me too.
But more than that, if I'm the attorney, I tell him, you're going to raise the bar for us with the defense. Right now, it doesn't matter if the election was stolen. What matters is, did you really believe it was stolen? That's the key for us.
Yeah.
If you now put this out there, it makes it seem like we have to prove it was stolen, and we don't. And we're going to lose. So I don't know.
And I'm glad you touched on that, because that's one of the things in both the January 6th and the Georgia case that I'm curious about is, we hear from texters, listeners about the fact that the courts never gave opportunity to actually look at the fraud. And I'm curious, when cases like this come up, why the defendants don't argue and prove the fraud. Fox News never argued that they were telling the truth. They never tried to prove the fraud. And if Donald Trump truly has proof that the Georgia election is stolen, then he could walk into court, lay it all out on the table. He could provide all the receipts, and then his actions are legitimate.
And now
he has a defense.
Why would you wait, 3 years and 4 indictments later to go, okay, here's the evidence?
Yeah, it's a very good question, especially if you have this report that is exculpatory.
Is it from the ninja guys? Because they didn't really find that.
They don't exist anymore because, ninjas, but
they just disappeared back into the.
So I don't know. So that may be Monday. We'll have to see what happens. Oh, and on my family thing, it is Max's last day working at my mom's, place where she's in a gated community.
Yeah.
And he's been the assistant groundskeeper.
Oh, yeah.
And maintenance and, helper. And so he's done, he does, he goes
so he's
around.
starting at the big new job.
Big new job starts on Monday. And it's funny because it is an older community. It's a lot of people that are plus 55, 60, tons of people, 65, in the 70s.
I thought you were going to say plus size.
And it's funny because the word has gotten out. And so now when he's going around doing the jobs and replacing light bulbs and he's moving this around and he's raking here and he's making sure and he's putting doors back on and he's doing all that kind of stuff. People are coming out and talking to him and how much they like him and how much they enjoy him. And that's been really nice. And he's told me many, many, many times that the idea of the manual labor he's not always a fan of, but he really finds fulfillment in doing things for the community because he knows that they are going to appreciate it. And he said the number of times that people come out and say thank you, and he talks about the people in the community that are really important. There's one woman that's there that is like the first or second person ever to purchase a home in that community when it was being built. And he's like, I know she's a priority, that if she asks for something or says something's wrong, he goes, I drop everything else and nice. I take care of her. She is that important.
But he's going to lose that and go to an environment where there's only criticism and despair.
I know. So we'll see what happens. And it's nice. He's been walking around and people have been
better
saying
benefits.
Yeah, much better benefits. And in fact, he has one friend of his that walks his dog every once in a while. And so while he's out doing his stuff, he runs into this guy, and the guy's a huge fan of yours.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and he talks about
is he talking to himself? Is he mentally ill?
He's a huge fan, listens to the show all the time. And he said he Miranda Max yesterday and said he's going to be really disappointed. He said, because now who else am I going to talk about the show with when George says something I like or something that I dislike or anything else? Which
is more likely.
But he said it was this nice connection to the show.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
And he said he loves the show, but he's going to really miss the conversations he's going to have with Max. So,
every once in a while, like one time I went at King Supers, talking after the show and just talking, and there's some dude from King Supers stocking the shelves, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Oh, are you on the radio?" And I'm like, yeah. And then another guy the other day, I'm walking out with Graham, and he's doing that. I can't tell if he's mean mugging me or not, but he's staring at me, and I'm just like, whatever. I mean, did I prosecute you is always my go-to.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, "Are you George Brauchler?" And I'm like,
that's the exactly. It's like, do I answer or not? Yeah.
And then once you don't answer, it's yes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, yes.
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah, question mark. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh man, I just want to thank you so much for what you did on STEM and
that's great.
Castillo thing. And I listened to you on the and I'm like, that's so nice.
Oh,
I mean,
that is cool.
We don't really have a sense of how broad the listenership is.
No, not at all.
It's just a function of the fact that we just don't do the things that other larger national radio outlets do. We just don't know. So a lot of it's anecdotal, a lot of it's feedback driven, and I think we're doing great, but you really don't know until people start accosting you in a good way.
Yes, exactly.
If there is a good version of accosting outside of a grocery store,
as long as you have soft hands, you're fine.
Or somewhere else, or like when Graham goes and plays baseball.
Oh yeah,
and I stand up to video all of his at bats and stuff, and then in between innings, an ump will come up to me. He's like, "Look, I saw the last name on the shirt. Are you the guy from the radio?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Hey.
He's like, "You like that?" Because I don't want you to be calling balls as strikes.
Exactly.
And it's usually something good, man. If you're an umpire and you're doing the sports thing, you tend to swing our way.
I'll tell you what, the umpires I've reffed before.
Yeah.
Umpire is a different level. That is a difficult job. That is one that I have so much respect for.
Oh my goodness,
because of it. Yeah.
Thankless. Thankless.
Something's making noise over here. I'm gonna go talk.
I think it's a phone that's ringing.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. I'm fairly certain it's not the Dalek thing. Listen, we've received news from the unofficial official historian for the show, Alexa, that Stefan is not going to be on from 4 to 7 today. I have no idea why. I heard him last night. I was listening as I was driving around for my 8 billionth mile that he was on at the Taste of Douglas County, which by all accounts was hugely successful, well attended, lots of good food down there. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I was on the road for hours, just hours driving around.
Ridiculous.
That was crazy. So I got a chance to listen to Stefan. He sounded, largely sober, but also, engaging and all that stuff.
Yeah. So you were talking about all the people calling up and, talking to you and saying how good the show is and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the other side of that. little ringy dingy thing over here.
Oh yeah, what'd the phone say?
So the dude, whatever reason, decided to spend his time to push 10 numbers into his phone.
Yeah,
and then say, "I'm just telling you, I'm turning you off again." So
okay, all right, dude.
So what?
Thanks, man.
I look at that and go, "Is that how petty you are?" I'm sorry, but look at
listen.
This face right here does not care.
I love the feedback.
I do too. I like the feedback, but the idea that you're gonna call in and tell, and I love the part that it's again. So I'm like, well, fine. That means you're gonna turn us back on. You're gonna listen later.
I think it's a great sign.
Yeah, I just that's the part is okay. In this business, you learn very early on that the individuals that write, call, text, and say, "I hate this. I'm never listening again," will be back inside of half an hour. 110% of the time.
But just the motivation to want to call in and give the feedback, I appreciate that. I mean, that's just.
But again, they're just trying to. But again, the motivation though is they're just trying to hurt feelings. They're just trying to be mean, and I'm like,
no, that's okay,
man.
You
can't even hurt my feelings.
I get that at home. It's all right.
I know.
I mean,
I have
getting
4
it on
kids.
the radio is not that bad. I mean, it's fine. And I appreciate that. I don't know that I believe him.
My kids have said much worse things to anything that anybody on the phone has ever said to me.
I think the other thing that some people don't get is that this first segment of the show, which is completely unformatted and unscripted,
we never talk about.
It's really just you and I bantering about what the hell did you do yesterday and what's going on in the future. I mean, there really is no other. No. You are rubbernecking a conversation between 2 middle-aged dads.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what you're doing.
And we have no idea what's going to happen in this first 30 minutes.
No, we never do. We don't even know if it's going to be 30 minutes.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Could be 26, could be 36. We don't know.
We don't plan this at all. We have a brief conversation about what our day was like after we left the show yesterday. Brief. And then we start talking topics.
Yeah.
And we go back and forth, and then we debate things. We talk about the questions we're going to be and some stuff like that. And then this is where we catch up on yesterday.
Yeah. Family stuff, all that other stuff.
Exactly.
A quick nod to the fact that Amanda leaves today at like noon-ish.
Oh, that
hurts. It hurts because, you know, she's got a friend taking her. Mom's still up at CSU with T, at least till this afternoon. Today's the first day of the law school class I've been teaching for a jillion years out at DU. So I got to go right from here. It starts, by the way, at 9 a.m.
Yeah, I know.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I won't be there. So I team teach this with a buddy named Dan. And it's just the way it is. There's no other time to fit us in. Yeah. And so I fly from here to there, part of the driving day, and it doesn't get done until 11:30. Yeah, well, sure. I mean, if you can see it.
Yes, exactly.
Many times it's obscured by things like air.
Yes, exactly.
And stuff like that. So I'm going to miss that. So Amanda takes off, and man, she doesn't come back until after she turns 21. Wow. And she'll turn 21 in December. Ooh. Doesn't come back until a few days before Christmas. That's a tough one. And unlike Southeast Asia, there isn't going to be a mom and or dad trip out there because who the hell travels to the Middle East to hang out? Short of Real Housewives of Dubai or something.
Exactly.
What are you doing out in the Middle East? Yeah. Last time I was there was Jordan in uniform. And the time before that, it was Iraq in uniform. I mean, there just isn't really, maybe Israel. I count Israel. Okay, I wasn't in uniform for that. That was sort of in between there. But there aren't a lot of good reasons for regular human beings to go tourist their way through the UAE that I'm aware of.
Oh yeah, no, not at all. So that's unfortunate.
But anyway, so it'll just be the 2 boys left. You know, it'll just be Jeffy and Graham, which it's bittersweet. I can't wait for Jeff to get his driver's license here on August the 30th, because then you kind of get a little more of a glimpse of that empty nester thing. Like, what will the world look like? And that's probably when I turn towards an addiction. That's probably when I start to decide what's it going to be.
What we will do is we will hold a contest, and we will have the listeners suggest the addiction you should try first. That's right. What we'll do. They'll get to vote.
See, someone's going to say snakes, and I'm going to be like, it's already been done. It's already been done. You know what I mean? I can't catch up.
That's funny. We had a guy coming over to we're doing some stuff with the house, and a guy came over to give us an estimate and stuff yesterday, and my wife's there, and the guy turns, and he sees the wall of snakes, and he goes, ooh, what's this? And he gets into and my wife's like, you know, if my husband was here, he goes, he'd brew you a cup of tea, he'd sit you down, you'd be here for an hour and a half, and he'd tell you all about it. And she says, but respectfully, he has his hobbies, I have mine. She says, about the most I can tell you is some king snakes, some corn snakes, and that's his thing. So he's like, wow.
Yeah.
And then, he complimented her on being a wife. He's like, I'm not sure. He's been married. He was an older guy, older than we are. And he said he's been married 40 plus years and said, he goes, I still don't think my wife would allow me to bring a snake in the house. He said, you're a really cool wife. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Well, that's great stuff. Listen, we've already received a text alerting us to the fact that we're danger close to blowing past our record. And there's no reason for it today. It's Friday, for God's sake. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to come back. We're going to jam in the old Thorpe Report there to get updated on some good stuff. It's never good stuff, but just so you know. And then you choose the news on the back part of the show for the 6 o'clock hour, and then we'll be right in the thick of things at 7 and ready for you. If you're not warmed up, we sure are. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Turning it over to the guy for the real news, William.
Real news. Oh, so much pressure. All righty, mostly sunny today. Chance of scattered storms in the afternoon. Highs right around the 95. 94 tomorrow, possibly late storms on Saturday. Sunday, highs in 95. And Monday, sunny, continued hot. Oh, we're going to be scraping the hundreds by then. So, a teenager at Santiago's was critically injured in a shooting in the Commerce City location yesterday afternoon. He works at Santiago's. Authorities received a call right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Reports of an active shooter at the restaurant. Restaurants at 72nd Avenue, Highway 85. Public Information Officer for Commerce City Police Department said the entire department, along with members of the Adams County Sheriff's Office, responded to the scene.
Wow.
Investigators determined the teenage employee and adult customer got into an argument. Teenager was shot and taken to Children's Hospital. Yes. So you get in an argument with someone that is an employee, that's a shooting.
It sounds like some kind of revenge.
Almost. Haha. Good call back to yesterday. Brighton police officer seriously injured while trying to arrest a wanted man Wednesday evening. Robert Trujillo, 49, wanted for felony domestic violence. Officers spotted him in a vehicle in the area of North 19th Avenue, Overland Drive, around 6 p.m. He refused to exit the vehicle. He maneuvered away from patrol cars when the officer was trying to pull him from the vehicle, allegedly sped off while the officer was still holding on to him. He then crashed into other vehicles in the parking lot, drove about 76 feet before the officer fell off the vehicle. He has been seriously injured, and he's in the hospital so far.
That's two bad things that took place up in Adams County, man.
Yes.
Are you going for the hat trick?
No, this is other bad cases, but this is in Larimer County, and this is about mosquitoes and viruses. 25 people are now infected with West Nile in Larimer County. Now, that is important because last year, only 15 cases of human West Nile in all of the year. And we are just heading into peak
and our
mosquito
two
season.
boys are up in Larimer County.
Yeah, not good. So stay away from mosquitoes. Also, just days before the start of the 2023-2024 school year, parents are scrambling to find transportation if you're a member of DPS. Either partially or fully cut bus routes at 6 of the schools are happening. District said it's only about 3% of transportation has been canceled, but that doesn't matter if it's the transportation for your child. So, yeah, they just don't have enough bus drivers. Partially because, sorry, some of your kids are monsters. I mean, I wouldn't want to drive the bus. There's no way.
Douglas County now. I know this because I've looked at the possibility of the bus thing. They have rolling bus blackouts because they cannot get enough bus drivers on board. I don't know if it's pay. I presume that's part of it, but damn.
That's part, but the other part is it's in where the pay structure would be. But bus driving pays fairly well. I mean, I think you're looking at minimum and normally right around $20 an hour. So
I wonder if I could do that.
I've thought about it, but they need you in the morning and the afternoon. So this job kind of,
I'll do the afternoon.
Boulder man has pleaded guilty to 2 charges and was sentenced in connection with a fentanyl death in the spring of last year. They identified the person who had sold fentanyl to the victim, who is it's Terrell Lucero, is the drug dealer, 26. And he set up a controlled fentanyl distribution service. So part of investigation. He's
what was he sentenced
to? Jail, prison. I don't know. I didn't look.
Got to be prison if it's a felony. Most likely, it could be jail.
Sold fentanyl. I didn't. I just did the last
manslaughter. Those what I read somewhere. That's only that's a probation eligible 2 to 6 years. Not very much for a death. But.
That's not good. And then we had a bomb scare in a Parker Walmart, and they went and found nothing yesterday afternoon. So I didn't do more.
I've been in that Parker Walmart. There's only the one.
Yeah, there's only the one. But I was like, well, I could do more about this, but they didn't find anything. That's kind of boring. So. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all we have for news so far.
Well, that is not uplifting at all. Where was the and a puppy was found and rescued with a winning lottery ticket in its mouth?
Exactly.
Something like that. Where was that?
They're giving out free kittens later this afternoon. None of that.
It's up at your son's dorm.
Yes, exactly.
Apparently, that's where it goes.
Yes.
Listen, Billy, thanks. Your day isn't done yet. We're going to need you to jump right back in when we come back with the You Choose the News. Until then, it's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that was awkward.
That was...
That is. I want to know how it makes it through the quality control.
I think your guess was as good as anyone's, and that is somebody's scanning Adam and Eve, and they're like, it must be a Genesis reference.
Yes, exactly.
Or something like that. And it's clearly not.
Clearly not, no.
Nonetheless, it's time to shift gears away from that advertising and get to the better advertising at the end of.
You cannot do that.
The end of You Choose the News. If you can top that, man, that could have been a You Choose the News advertiser.
There's so much pressure now.
Racy. It might blow you away.
I know. Like the double entendres.
Snakes.
And the odd thing is that I know the woman reading the ad.
Oh, that is awkward.
She's a really, really good friend of mine. She's a fantastic person. Yeah, no, not really. But,
All right. Good luck.
All right.
You choose the news.
Alrighty, we're going to try to not make this super awkward, but it is time for You Choose the News, everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. We are bringing back the losers from earlier in the week, the ones that George did not have the temerity to choose. Well, they're going to get a second shot as we play this fake radio news game. Alrighty, sir, here are your headlines. Headline number 1, only following their example. Headline number 2, another dangerous Chinese export. Headline number 3, always check credentials. And headline number 4, peafowl population prohibition. Your choice, sir, again,
did you say peafowl?
Yes, peafowl.
Yeah, let's go there.
All right, peafowl population prohibition. Now, there is a problem in an area of Florida. They have some peafowls that are running around and causing a lot of problems. Peafowls, you might know them as their more colloquial name, peacocks. They're running around and they're causing problems in this neighborhood. They have a series of wild peacocks. And peacocks are, they're loud. They poop everywhere. But more importantly, they don't recognize their own reflection. So they have a tendency to attack cars and windows when they see a reflection of another peacock. So they're having a problem. And they figured out, what are we going to do? We must do something about the peacocks, but we don't want to kill these lovely birds. So instead, they've talked about family planning. Yes, they have hired a gentleman to wander around the area of Florida to give the male birds vasectomies.
What? No.
Yes, they're doing peacock vasectomies.
It's not right.
Well, again, it's better than the first plan, which was peacock condoms, which again is more difficult.
So hard to put on.
I know it is. It's just
especially
and and you got to get them excited first.
And you can't. No. Listen, now you've gone Adam and Eve again.
Exactly.
You cannot be heard saying, "I'm putting a condom on my peacock."
No, you cannot. No,
you can't. There's no good thing that can come from that revelation.
Yeah, so he's got to snip the little birds. So yeah, I know. Imagine going around and going, "Yeah, Mom's so proud. I went to medical school and I vasectomized peacocks."
Dr. Doolittle would never do that.
Not at all.
He can clip with the animals.
Yeah, snip with the animals. Okay. Okay, only following their example, another dangerous Chinese export are always check credentials.
Chinese.
Always. Oh, another Chinese export. This is a dangerous one. We now, after they gave us their horrible murder hornets, now they have sent us another export that are killing the bees.
I forgot about the murder hornets.
Yeah, there is another species of hornet that has come over here from China, and they are predatory, and they feed on honeybees. Our U.S. Department of Agriculture and the University of Georgia announced they are seeing a huge proliferation in Georgia and beyond of this invasive species. They're known as the yellow-legged hornet. They're native to tropical regions inside of Southeast Asia, and they've already spread to multiple regions in Europe, parts of the Middle East, and other places they are not native. The first time they've been seen here in the U.S., colonies simply have about 6,000 insects. And what they do is they go into the bee colonies and kill them all and then take the honey and the babies. So, yeah. Instead of the murder hornets, now we have the bees kill it. Now the hornets killing the bees.
I don't. Why did the Chinese do this?
They don't like us. You should have known that from the COVID. That's what the rumor is.
Maybe that's it. All this time. And I love their food.
I know. It's delicious. All right. Next, final choice. Only following their example or always check credentials.
You should always check credentials.
You should always check credentials, especially if you're in Florida and you're looking to have your little puppy or kitty operated on. When you're looking for a veterinarian, you could have run into 61-year-old Osvaldo Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez recently was arrested and charged with animal abuse. Why? Well, see, Mr. Sanchez runs a dog grooming business, and business was okay, but he figured maybe I can branch out. Maybe I should do other things inside of this industry. So Osvaldo decided that, well, now today I'm a veterinarian. Did he go to school?
Huh?
No. Did he do any training? No. He just decided to advertise himself as a veterinarian.
Who hasn't done that?
I know. And then, unfortunately, that was bad news for Sugar. Sugar is a 6-year-old Chihuahua that was having difficulty delivering her puppies. She was contacted by, Sanchez was contacted by the owner, and he said, oh, that's easy. I can do a C-section.
Oh, my God.
And since we're talking about it, you know exactly how well it went. Sugar didn't survive. Some of the babies did, but Sugar got ill afterwards because of an infection because, I don't know, maybe the pretend veterinarian doesn't have sanitary means or has any idea how to keep his medical instruments clean and free of bacteria and germs. So, yeah.
This is the ad, right? No, but I did stay at a Motel 6
Yes, I did
last
so.
night.
Yeah, exactly. That's
and you're
exactly
like
it.
wrist deep inside an
I
animal. Like, I think I found the pancreas liver.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, how many kidneys is this thing supposed to have? I look at that and go, again, and the weird thing is, you're going to the veterinarian, even if they have a shop or a store, whatever it is, you don't assume you want to look at a little diploma to see if they just, wrote it with crayons. But evidently, I know.
Look, all I can say is one of our texters ended this segment by saying, I artificially inseminated cows in college. I guess that's better than doing it naturally.
Many questions.
Yeah, I know. That's just like, what is going on in your life? Listen, stick around in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to get right back into the current event stuff. We'll leave all this Adam and Eve stuff. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's the 7 o'clock hour. That leaves only 3 hours before we're replaced by Charlie Kirk, and then Dennis Prager at 11. That's important because Dennis is only days away from joining us right here live in Centennial at the View House right off of I-25 on August the 30th. You can get those tickets to see him. Intimate setting. Guy loves cigars. You get a chance to be part of that experience sitting around. I don't know how else to describe it. If you've been before, it's the third annual one. If you've been before, you know, pretty cool setup, man. You kind of have that part of the View House to yourself. You sit down, you listen to Dennis up close and personal, asking some questions. Guy's very smart, very engaging, and very into his cigars. With your ticket, you get one, a premium one, and then I think the first drink is free as long as you don't take it off the premises. I think that's the only thing they try to do is to stop me from taking the free drink with me in my car. But there's also a carving station, there's hors d'oeuvres, there's the camaraderie, the friendship. And even though apparently Stefan isn't on this afternoon, he'll be there and doling out hugs to all ticket holders. I've just committed him to that. I hope that turns out to be true. But check it out at 710knus.com. Go to the banner, click on third annual Dennis Prager Cigar Night. Be a part of that fun. I'll be there as well. They're risking, honestly, their relationship with Dennis as well as Salem and the FCC by allowing me to have access to the stage and the microphone. But they've said they're going to do it. So I imagine this is probably the end. You're listening to the last shows probably for me, not Billy, but for me, just because of that. So be a witness to it. You can say I was there when. Check it out at 710knus.com. Now, listen, there's a couple things I want to talk to you about that are interrelated. They may not seem to be at first, but I think that they are. They both involve the law. They both involve a law that on its face, one is local, one is, I guess they're both local. One's in DC, one's here. And they both seem like on their face, they would be completely legal, completely constitutional, but the impact that they have, the way in which they are applied, certainly suggests discrimination, and discrimination based on religion or message. Here's what I mean. Just recently, and I mean within the last 3 days, the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, that's a big one. That's the one that I think more Supreme Court justices who've come from DC or from circuit courts have come from the DC circuit than any other circuit. So, for instance, Gorsuch came from the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, but most of them seem to cycle through the DC circuit. There was an opinion that they rendered in a case called Frederick Douglass Foundation, Inc. et al., that means and all the others, versus the District of Columbia. Here's what happened. If you have not heard about this, it is fascinating. In the summer of 2020, you may recall in the post-George Floyd era, Washington, D.C. was set upon by many, many BLM, Black Lives Matter protesters. And over weeks, and I'm reading now from the actual opinion, over several weeks, the protesters covered streets, sidewalks, and storefronts with paint and chalk. The markings were ubiquitous and in open violation of the district's defacement ordinance, yet none, to me that means zero, of the protesters were arrested. However, during that same summer, same city, police officers arrested 2 pro-life advocates in a smaller protest for chalking, wait for it, Black preborn lives matter on a public sidewalk. Yes, that's right. This opinion goes on. And I have to tell you, as a prosecutor, I have heard the argument from defense attorneys and defendants for decades about, oh, it's selective enforcement. It's selective enforcement. And the equivalent of this is you're driving down the road in the flow of traffic and everybody on that road is going 80 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone. You get pulled over. And you're like, but what about everybody else? Not a good defense at all. Not even a legal defense in that case. Because in that use of selective enforcement, it is based upon resources, limited resources, and inability to. That's not the case here. I will tell you that over the course of just the 28 years I've been engaged in this, I've never once ever heard of a selective enforcement action being upheld by a trial court, let alone an appellate court. And here, a 3-judge panel unanimously ruled against the District of Columbia on the issue of selective enforcement and sent the case back down to the trial court to make further findings. That's incredible, because what they found was there was at least facially, a discriminatory motive to what took place. And that's impressive. The trial court itself, of course, consistent with what I had experienced, had dismissed the complaint that was filed by the Frederick Douglass Foundation. Not 3 Fredericks, just the one. I just said it 3 times. Based on First Amendment. It says First Amendment prohibits discrimination on the basis of viewpoint, irrespective of the government's motive. And that's what the government of DC had said, is that you can't prove that we were trying to discriminate. You can't prove a discriminatory motive. And the court said, wait, you don't have to, because the impact is discriminatory. It is clear that there was discrimination here. Some of the descriptions of this thing is crazy. The law itself, as you can imagine, is viewpoint content neutral. That is, you just simply can't deface the sidewalk, you can't deface buildings, and all this other stuff. But the court goes on in its findings to say the district all but abandoned enforcement of the defacement ordinance during the Black Lives Matter protests, creating a de facto categorical exemption for individual who marked, quote, Black Lives Matter messages on public and private property. And there were several examples, including things like Black Lives Matter equal defund the police, things like that. And if you remember, there are pictures of giant on the street, Black Lives Matter, and Mayor Bowser, she's standing in the middle of all this thing, giving a press conference at one point, but like covering the entire street, Black Lives Matter, like so big you could like see it from space. Police officers did nothing. They watched while it happened, never wrote a single ticket, never made a single arrest. By the way, permits not issued for those protests either. They were just spontaneous things that happened. Meanwhile, later that summer, 2 pro-life organizations, the Frederick Douglass Foundation and another one, got together and they said, whoa, we'd like to do our own protest, a very small rally, less than 50 supporters, infinitesimal when compared to the Black Lives Matter movement. They went and they sought, I think at one point they sought a permit. They said here it is. In a conversation about the permit, a police officer gave the foundation verbal permission to paint its Black Preborn Lives Matter message on the street. The officer said he thought that the mayor had basically said, hey, you can use the streets for political markings for anything. That turned out to be what the Court of Appeals thought as well. However, when the pro-life advocates showed up for their little rally on August the 1st, 6 police cars had shown up full of cops. They told the students, if you mark anything, there were students that were doing this, if you mark anything on the sidewalks, we're going to arrest you. And the 2 students, and man, you just got to appreciate the guts here. 2 students began to chalk Black Preborn Lives Matter. Small, faint letters. That's what the Court of Appeals found. Small, faint letters with washable chalk. Both students arrested. The entire event caught on video. And what is amazing about this opinion is not just that it was unanimous, but it was who made up that unanimous vote. 3 judges appointed to this very powerful, very prestigious DC Court of Appeals. One of them was a Trump appointee. One of them a Biden appointee. One of them an Obama appointee. That is amazing. And that's the kind of thing that you expect out of the law, that it isn't partisan. And when it comes to this, I mean, it seems like an obvious First Amendment violation. It's just amazing that this thing happened. I don't know why this case didn't get more press. It is a huge deal. And the difference is one was the Black Lives Matter people and one was pro-life people. And the pro-life people got arrested. These 2 students got arrested for what they did. Well, we have a case here. I can't call it a corollary case, but it's interesting because it touches upon some of the same issues. Now, you may recall that Governor Polis has been highly touting universal pre-K and that it's free. And by free, it means somebody, not you using it, is paying for it. It's everybody else paying for it. It's free to the users, but the rest of us taxpayers are footing the bill. Now, universal pre-K has existed in some form since like the late 80s, but this is the first time they've done it in this sort of statewide way. And frankly, the number of people applying for it is less than what the state anticipated. So the governor's out there doing a big pro-free UPK kind of a thing. Well, enter the Catholics, man. In particular, St. Mary's and St. Bernadette's, St. Mary Catholic Parish in Littleton, St. Bernadette Catholic Parish in Lakewood, and then the Archdiocese of Denver. They run pre-K programs, and parents come and they pay a certain amount of money. There's tons of scholarships that they give and all this other stuff, but they run these programs. They just can't do it for free. Well, they hear about this universal pre-K program and they say, well, we'd love to sign up for that. We'd love to get the subsidies from the taxpayers, just like every other program out there, so that we too can offer a free program. But here's the hitch. The program says no pre-K curriculum or program can exclude people based on sexual orientation or sexual identity or any of the other words that come after sexual. Well, guess what? Turns out the Catholic Church not that down with the LGBTQ lifestyle. In fact, they make their employees sign things that say they're not going to take positions that are adverse to the positions of the church for obvious reasons. Well, they filed a lawsuit this week against Lisa Roy. And the reason they did is because Lisa is the executive director of the Colorado Department of Early Education. And they also filed it against Dawn O'Dean. She is the director of Colorado's Universal Preschool Program. And their argument is interesting. And Billy and I had been talking about this off air. It's interesting because they're saying, the state is saying, you can't receive this money if you discriminate in any way against people based off of, race, gender, sexual, fill in the blank. And the church has these particular views that they've held for a long, long time that say we're not going to promote that lifestyle and all these other things. And so they're cut off from those funds. The lawsuit itself says we're now being discriminated against by this policy because we cannot compete with other programs out there that are getting their programs subsidized by state taxpayer dollars. You are discriminating against us based on our faith. That is really interesting. They give evidence of the fact that they serve the, folks that aren't upper middle class or rich, right? So they have, for St. Bernadette's, 85% of the people that go there are on free or reduced lunches and all that other stuff. St. Mary's has not the same numbers, but they offer a bunch of scholarships and stuff. And what they start to cite in this lawsuit, and it's filed in U.S. District Court, in federal court, what they start to cite here is they're like, listen, we're losing out teachers because the other schools that are getting subsidized can pay them more. We can't pay them more. We're losing out on students that can help pay or cover at least some of the cost of what we're already paying for the program, because the parents are coming to us saying, can't you do the free program? And the church is saying, no, they won't let us. And they're saying, well, then we're going to go to the place that's free because that's better for us than coming up with even the reduced amount that you charge us. And so what's going to happen here as a result, and I don't know if this is unintentional. You know what I mean? You can't chalk it up anymore to unintentional consequences of these policies. But the end result of this is the state has now put every other agnostic, atheist, religious-free organization that provides pre-K in competition, and in unfair competition with faith-based pre-K. And so now the Catholic Church is saying, we can't compete. We're going to die on the vine here. We're not going to be able to continue to offer these programs. So very interesting here. The answer can't be, oh, hey, you can have the money as long as you adopt policies that are inconsistent with your faith. That seems to me to be discriminatory. It's different in a way than the one out of DC, than the Frederick Douglass case, because it's not about the application of the law. Again, on its face, it seems like it would be maybe neutral. But I think the church here makes a very interesting argument. And you should note, not a single local attorney, apparently. I looked up all these. I looked up the last page of this, and it's by people. They could be local. I don't think they are, but they're citing that they're from the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, 1919 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Suite 400. In Washington, D.C. So not here. And they don't need to be from here to file in U.S. District Court. They just need to be licensed somewhere and in the U.S. District Court. It's very interesting. They say that this violates the First Amendment to the United States Constitution as applied, which is similar to Frederick Douglass, to the plaintiff's religious exercise. And so they're asking for an injunction, a preliminary and permanent injunction against the state in doing this particular thing. What do you think? 303-696-1971. Here's already some text coming in. The church just needs to stop discriminating against LGBTQ families. They don't have to marry them. They don't have to baptize them. But if they want state money for education, they need to not discriminate against any child or their family. That's an easy thing to say when it's not your faith. I mean, at what point, if the state decides we're going to allow polygamy, then it's like, well, the church is just going to have to stop discriminating against people who have 2 or 3 wives. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to do that. Is that the right answer? You make the schools bend to your will? I mean, by the way, that church may not be paying taxes, but every single member of that church is. They're all paying taxes, and this tax money is being redirected away from the school simply because of their long-held, sincerely held beliefs. So the church just needs to stop discriminating against LGBTQ families. It's so easy to say. What other beliefs do they have to give up? What other things do they have to give up? Are they not allowed to talk about Jesus anymore? Well, you can't promote Jesus because you need to take Muslim kids in your Catholic pre-K program. Is that what you're saying? Now you can't discriminate against someone based on their lack of faith? I understand the argument, hey, we're not supposed to be subsidizing religion in schools. I don't see it that way. I mean, you're giving the money to everybody except the church. You are discriminating against faith based on tenets of their belief. That is very interesting to me. I don't know what the U.S. District Court does here, but it's kind of irrelevant because whatever happens here is going to get kicked up to the 10th Circuit. This is one of those things. I don't know. Could end up in front of the Supreme Court. You say before? 303-696-1971. Tom from Highlands Ranch, you're on 710. What do you think, Tom?
Well, I think it's obvious that we have viewpoint discrimination going on in our court system, and that's been obvious for a while. I don't find it shocking that this is happening in Colorado, just as I didn't find it shocking that the BLM rioters in Washington, D.C. were treated very differently than the January 6th rioters on the Capitol building. And people, and this includes you, George, who try to say this is different for Trump, it's the exact same thing. This is what our judicial system does. When Democrats run it, I would move to a red state if I could afford it.
Well, listen, Tom, when you said, I think it's evidence that there's discrimination in the courts, I missed that part because I was reading about how the D.C. Circuit actually punched down on Washington, D.C. police and said, no, you're doing it wrong because of the viewpoint discrimination. Where are you seeing the discrimination in courts?
Viewpoint discrimination. How many police officers were killed during the BLM riots versus how many were actually killed, which is 0 at the January 6th riot.
But what does that have to do with this argument?
In jail pre-trial, because you actually have, and I sent this to my friends a few days ago, including some who are progressives or vote for progressives, because it points out that finally you had a court decide that you cannot discriminate against somebody just because of their political viewpoints.
Do you think that the people that were inside the Capitol and arrested for their participation in what took place inside the Capitol were arrested for their viewpoints? Because there were tens of
100%.
Tens of thousands of people outside the Capitol expressing the same viewpoints who were never arrested. How do you explain that?
Well, some of them were, because some of them struck officers.
Well, okay. Well, they're not getting arrested for their viewpoint, man. They're getting arrested for their conduct.
Yeah. But George, we've seen the video. Did they when teachers in Wisconsin protested Governor Walker and went into the Capitol building and disrupted the service of what the elected officials were supposed to be doing in Wisconsin? Were any of those teachers and other people arrested? The answer is no. Why?
Yeah, but man,
Because
listen,
they
you
had the
cannot
viewpoint
conflate the Washington D.C. police's response to the folks that broke into the Capitol with something that took place in Wisconsin. It's not the same government. It's not the same laws. It's not the same issue. You can't say, oh, well, hey, there's proof that there's a First Amendment violation based on viewpoint. One's a Wisconsin local thing. The other one's Washington, D.C. police.
Right, and when the Capitol Police are escorting people around the building and showing them stuff and not telling them violently to leave, and yet you have those people walking around, milling about, not doing anything, not damaging property, not doing anything.
You're trying.
They get arrested and sit in jail for a year.
But I'd be interested in knowing.
For a year pre-trial.
Tom, how many people that did not strike a police officer, that did not enter the Capitol, that did not participate in what took place inside the Capitol, get arrested for their viewpoint? How many?
So you think that?
No, I'm just asking you a question, man. I'm not asking you to ask me another question. I'm asking you for an answer. How many?
First off, George, I don't spend my time reading who on the Capitol grounds got arrested. There are people who got arrested who were on the Capitol grounds, not in the Capitol building. They were arrested. And you're saying that didn't happen.
Well, but you said for hitting cops.
No. There were other people who just were on the Capitol grounds who got arrested. They did not enter the building.
Yeah, I don't know what they did, man, but I'm telling you, of the tens of thousands, maybe 100,000, I don't know how many people were peacefully out there not trespassing in the Capitol. I don't know any of them that got arrested. None of them.
I know there are people who are on the Capitol grounds, not in the building, who got arrested.
Yeah, I don't know about that, man. I'm talking about the billions of people or whatever it was outside the Capitol. Not on the Capitol grounds, so whatever it was. I just don't know anyone that got arrested there, man. And I'm telling you, that's not viewpoint discrimination.
You don't think that the rest of us who see this and go, if I was there, I was in jeopardy, versus
you are not
BLM rider who literally lit stuff on fire, not being arrested. You have lawyers in New York who lit a cop car on fire who suffered no consequences. And you're telling me it's not.
They're not the same government, Tom. You're trying to see some broader conspiracy out there. I'm talking about in Washington, D.C., where the same cops arrested people for behavior that took place during the summer that they... Tom, nothing says I've lost the argument like hanging up after yelling, grow up on the phone. Tom, you're trying to take one incident from Wisconsin and compare it to something that took place in Washington, D.C. with people who are inside the Capitol. Man, it just doesn't work. I'm happy to have the conversation with you. But this idea that it's going to be distilled down to you saying what people think, I don't give a damn what people think about those two incidents. I'm talking about the law. You don't want to talk about the law. And frankly, you don't want to talk. You want to be able to jump right in, vomit up your stuff, and then yell, grow up. Like this is a matter of maturity. Come on, Tom, you're better than that. Here's one. George, can I borrow your rose-colored glasses? Well, I mean, have the guts to call in 303-696-1971. This is a story about two different things that have taken place. One that is post-litigation, or at least it's in the middle of litigation here, where it is clear that the police engaged in viewpoint discrimination. Same police department, same conduct, virtually the same words on a smaller scale. That cannot be confused with whatever took place with Scott Walker and the Capitol in Wisconsin and what took place on January the 6th. Those two things are completely disconnected by geography, time, and content. So please don't tell me there's some common garbage thread there. Another question. What would happen if this was a Muslim preschool instead of a Catholic preschool? Yeah, I wonder. That's a great question. I wonder. if they would discriminate. I presume the law would say, hey, we don't care about the Muslims' views either. You're either going to bend to these secular views that you have to accept these things, or we're not going to give you the taxpayer money. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. It's very interesting to have a taxpayer-provided vehicle here that by its application discriminates against a faith based on tenets of their faith. I can see there being some crazy other application of this, but it is interesting. Here's another one. You don't see it that way because you're Catholic. I'm not Catholic, and it's discrimination. Yes, so what? It is discrimination. I agree. But the Catholic Church discriminates based on faith the same way every other faith does. It's like saying, I want the church to accept people who don't believe in Jesus. Why would the church have to do that? They're discriminating based on faith. I get it. The point here is you're taking taxpayer money and throwing it around and saying it's not available to you as long as you cling to your beliefs. I don't know. That to me feels like viewpoint discrimination. If you think like the government thinks, you get the money. If you think like your faith dictates, you don't get the money. That's just very interesting. I'm not saying it can't apply in some places, but it's ridiculous. Listen, I got some more text coming in here. 303-696-1971 was the number. If you have the guts to do more than just yell, grow up and hang up like Tom from Highlands Ranch did, please give us a call. Otherwise, you can send in texts off of the app. We do get the emails. I just don't get a chance to respond to them while I'm on the air. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Sort of going back and forth between two things that I think are related, but folks want to end up debating whether or not January 6th was a tour gone wrong versus what it actually was. Here's a text. The Catholic Church has no problems with money. What are you talking about? Like, it's okay to discriminate against the church based on their faith because they have money to respond? Here's another one. It's the same one. It's not a lifestyle or behavior. Yes, for some narcissistic attention seekers it is, but this is where religious conservatives consistently get it wrong. If someone is gay and keeps it to themselves, what business is it of theirs? The Catholic Church has their own issues with lying for abusers. That's a larger problem to me. Well, it sounds like you hate Catholics, but here's the other thing. If they're keeping their sexual orientation to themselves, how in the world would the church know about it? What you're suggesting is, hey, it's nobody's business, but if they advertise it to the church, or hey, we're a gay couple that wants to send our kids to a church whose faith is, listen, we love the sinner, but not the sin, you're like, that's a problem. How come 40 years ago, separation of church and state applied? Not anymore. I don't know what you're talking about. First off, this lemon doctrine, this lemon law thing about the separation of church and state, that doesn't appear anywhere in the Constitution. As you know, it's interpreted. That doesn't mean it doesn't carry the weight of law because it comes from the Supreme Court. But let's not pretend that the founders of the country were out there saying we have to keep church and state completely separated in all things. It's never been true. It wasn't true 40 years ago. It's not true today. Instead, you have the government engaging in conduct that has the consequence of being negative to the church, attacking the church. Is that okay too? If the government takes steps like that to make it harder for the church to survive, is that okay? 303-696-1971. Shane, you're on 710 KNUS. Shane, what do you think?
Hi, George. I would like to say that you're specifying when it comes to the D.C. police, the situation with January 6th and referring to that specific incident.
You know, I didn't bring up January 6th. That wasn't me. That was Tom, the hang-up artist from Highlands Ranch.
Yeah, no, I understand. At the same time, we're looking at American law in general. If we are living outside the country and you look and you read about American law, you're not worried about whether it's local, state, or national. You're looking at American law in general. And I think what the caller was getting to is that the way that the BLM riots were treated, whether it be in Denver or nationally, is a lot more or a lot less persecution and arrest and prosecution, billions of dollars, of damage, many people hurt and killed. And then you look at the January 6th and the two ways they were judged in American law was totally unfair and totally inconsistent. And I think when someone looks in general at American law, we've got these narratives running, whether it's
why are you saying it's unfair?
It's unfair because you had in January 6th, not one person was killed except one of the January 6th protesters was killed inside the Capitol. That situation was not even reviewed thoroughly in the public eye. And yet BLM had many, people killed and hurt, and no prosecutions at all for that. And I think when it comes to American law, we're seeing these narratives of anti-Catholic.
Wait, you said no, hold on. You said no BLM protesters have been arrested?
Well, let's put it this way. The percentages are totally low. If they have been arrested, I speak with Denver cops.
Yes.
And the protests that happened in
Billy's
Denver,
research shows 14,000 BLM protesters. 14,000.
Okay. 14,000 arrested for the riots out of how many?
I have no damn idea, man. But the point is, you started with none of them were arrested. Then it was a percentage or a low number. And then it's 14,000. And now it's somehow we have to achieve some sort of percentage parity with those who participated. I mean, listen, you're talking to a guy who is absolutely appalled that our weak ass governor and attorney general did nothing to hold accountable those and the Denver DA to hold those people accountable who trashed our Capitol day in and day out for weeks. Yeah, I'm appalled at that. In no way does that excuse any other criminal conduct anywhere else, including in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol. Listen, I mean, do you think that people in the Capitol on January the 6th committed a crime?
Yes, they did. The crime of trespassing, okay? At the same time, do we arrest every jaywalker that crosses the street? No, we don't.
We don't
look
arrest
Denver,
any jaywalkers, ever.
Okay, trespassing, I'm sure that's a very low-rated crime, misdemeanor or less, right?
No.
Okay? We have people that are spending years and years in prison for that crime or something drummed up by
Wait,
the
hold
federal
on.
government.
They were sent to prison without due process?
No, they had due process, but they were sent to prison for trespassing. Okay? And look at Denver. You like to cherry pick or be real specific about certain areas. In Denver, and I've talked to Denver cops probably every day.
What am I cherry picking, man?
Denver,
I'm the one that referenced Denver.
Okay, well, let's go to your reference then. And being that you want to look at specific statistics, okay?
I guess I'm good at the facts thing.
Okay, well, let's look at statistics because they can be bent in any way you want. Okay, let's look at Denver. How many were really arrested and put in jail or prison for the BLM riots in Denver?
I have no idea. Not nearly enough.
Okay, I had cops tell me they had bottles thrown at them. They were hit, punched, and everything. I didn't hear about many arrests whatsoever. Now,
so
that's just in Denver.
It sounds like you and I are on the same page.
Okay, so then, George, why are you so anti-January 6th?
Because they are criminals, man. They are criminals. They stormed the Capitol. What?
Hey, are you a criminal for trespassing? Is that what a criminal is?
Absolutely. You are a criminal for trespassing.
So when you went into that school and you trespassed, were you a criminal at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So did you deserve jail or prison time for doing that?
Hold on. As a teenager in a gym, no. Did I deserve, had I been caught, would I have deserved to go through the system? You betcha, buddy. You betcha. But please tell me you're not going to confuse the ridiculous conduct of a couple 17-year-old boys with keys to the gym to what took place on January the 6th in an effort to keep the election from being certified. You're not comparing those things.
George, no, I'm saying I don't want you to be a hypocrite. You're a very smart man. You broke into a government building. The age shouldn't be a factor.
Are you out of your tree, dude? The age shouldn't be a factor?
No, let me say you were 17. That's old enough to know better. Okay. So let me give you an example. Okay. I don't think you should have gone to jail. I don't think you should have gone to prison. I think maybe you should have got a ticket if you were caught, but fortunately you were not caught. Okay. The January 6ers, they're going to jail and prison, some for many years, and that's trespassing. Okay. So what you're doing is you're saying because you were 17, 1 year less than being an adult, that the law or the consequences should pertain differently to you than people that are making a political statement. They're not.
I don't care what their motivation was. Their motivation's irrelevant.
And they're trespassing.
Their motivation is irrelevant.
Do you think they should go to jail or prison for that?
I do.
Meanwhile,
I do.
BLM protesters that threw things at cops in Denver didn't go to jail or prison.
I think they should go to jail or prison too. I absolutely agree.
So American law is not consistent, and
there is no American law. There's no American law, Shane.
Listen to what you're saying, George. There's no American law. If you're a foreigner from another country, are you going to break it down into local law?
It does. Who gives a damn what a foreigner would do? You and I know the difference, man. Denver police, they're on the hook for what they didn't do. They're on the hook for electing a Denver DA who doesn't want to prosecute the BLM people. You cannot confuse that with what took place in Washington, D.C. The fact that you're trying to make some analogy between a 17-year-old with keys to a gym 40 plus years ago who was dicking around with some people who were there because you claim they're politically protesting and they're trying to stop the confirmation of a presidential election, those things aren't even on the same planet.
George, you were being a silly teenager. You did not deserve jail time. Okay? The January 6ers that trespassed the Capitol, they were making a political statement. They didn't hurt anybody.
Hold on.
Okay,
140 cops got hurt.
Okay, okay, let me tell you, there were cops that got hurt. So I'm not
Yeah,
going to
140 of them.
But there were a lot of trespassers that did not hurt anybody that got arrested, and some put in jail or prison for that. Okay.
Should we have just said, hey, you're here because you have a deeply held political view. We're just going to let you go.
They should have been ticketed or whatever the consequence may be. Okay.
They did get the consequences.
Yeah, but they didn't do that. But they served time with their freedom taken away in jail.
Yeah,
they
hold on.
Not have gotten that.
They either agreed to it through a plea bargain, or they went to trial and a jury forced accountability on them. It's not like the government just showed up and said, for what you did, I hereby declare you'll go to jail. They still had attorneys. They still had a jury they got to pick. They still had plea bargains to reject or accept or negotiate. It's no accident they ended up in jail.
But how many of those BLM protesters, face far less consequences than those January 6th protesters? It's inconsistent.
It's not
fair. And what
same.
you want to do is you say, okay, local law is different than federal law. The law is the law, George.
That's not true. That is not true. It is simply false. It's false.
The way it is applied is completely different as far as consequences and the way
who applies it is different too, man. Who applies it is different. Right?
The federal government, the way they persecuted the January 6ers,
persecuted,
the way that local and state law or state law enforcers enforce the law with the BLM protesters, 100%.
Yeah. So Shane, it sounds like what you want to say is because here in Denver, BLM protesters didn't get any consequences, then the freak shows out at January the 6th, who you admit trespassed the Capitol and for a purpose of trying to stop the certification of election, that those people too should be let go. So unless Denver does its job,
so
Washington, D.C. shouldn't do its job.
So local law compared to federal law, George, you broke into a school, government building.
100%.
Okay, and if you were caught, maybe you would have got a ticket.
No, there would be no ticket, man. I'd have been hooked up and taken through the juvenile system, man. I'd have been taken through the juvenile system.
I've worked in the justice system, George, and I understand how those juvenile systems work compared to adult systems. You would not have been locked up. You would have been ticketed. You may have got
you have no idea what you're talking about. You are clueless, dude.
100%. I've heard of people, staff members, that were assaulted many times in the Division of Youth Services, and there was no consequence. Youth received time served for that. These are state workers.
Listen, man, if you're going to try to tell me that, if you're going to try to tell me in 1987 that cops would have shown up and found 3 teenage kids in the gym and scratched them tickets and cut them loose to go home, dude, you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes, I do know what I'm talking about. Do you know about, George, about state workers?
Hey, Shane, I got to cut you loose, man. Hey, Shane, forgive me. We went really long on this part, and I'm going to end up hosing Alpine. I don't want to do that. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. It's that time of the show where we get to be made smarter by the smarty smarts out there at Alpine Planning. Brian Gray, thanks for joining us, buddy.
Hey, George, I just want you to go to the corner, start banging your head against the wall. There's only so much you can do, my
I'm
friend.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
That's
so sorry.
all right. Hey, let's keep you on track here. We got the sell-off is continuing today. You know, probably for the past week and a half, we've seen the market sell off, and the phone is starting to ring again because people are getting a little bit panicky. But you got to stay invested right now. That's the one thing I'll say. You know, what goes up will come back down, but you want to stay invested, have constant communication with your advisor, and then have those quarterly meetings as well. As we stand right now, the Dow is down 43 points, NASDAQ is down 89, and the S&P is down 13. But here's what's scary. If you take a look at the close of yesterday, U.S. mortgage rates hit the highest level in 21 years.
Wow.
One analyst this morning, he put it the best way. He said right now lending rates scare the hell out of him. The rates are basically keeping people out from buying homes, or the amount of home that they can qualify because rates have been so high. So the word of wisdom for today is just stay invested, stay diversified, make sure you got a good solid portfolio, and don't panic and don't listen to all the news.
Are you looking for something else in the near term, Brian, that'll give us an indication?
No, the big thing that we're seeing right now is the U.S. Treasuries. You know, they hit the
yield,
they hit a high just the other day where it's almost like free money now. I mean, there's some treasuries out there that are paying 5%. So, you know, those do fluctuate on a daily basis, but it's free money. Now, what's going to happen is that's going to end up hurting the equity markets because the treasuries are going to compete directly with the bond market. So we're kind of keeping our eyes on that, and then want to keep our eyes on these interest rates and see how high they go.
Alpine Planning Group, a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. And that's what you hear from Brian. Long-term. Don't make the short-term crazy moves. Investing is a matter of trust. They're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918. 303-843-0918. Brian, back to the headbanging. You have a great weekend.
All right, George. Have a good one.
See you, buddy.
Securities and Investment Advisory. Financial Services, Inc. Member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Listen, when we come back, I'll continue this topic if you will, but when we come back, we'll be joined by Brenda Dickhoner from Ready, Colorado. She's going to talk to us about education in Colorado, what the latest results show. George Brauchler, 710. KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here. We're halfway through the Friday show, getting ready to give you off to the weekend. I can't wait to get there myself. Long week, but there's so much information to cover. One of the stories you may have read about in the paper involves CMAS. That's some special testing that I think even my kids have been subjected to. It serves a good purpose, but it also tells us what's going on in education. To have a smarter conversation about that, we're going to go to Brenda Dickhoner. She is, I said executive director. It turns out, Brenda, looking at your thing here, that turns out to be garbage. You are the president and CEO of Ready Colorado. Is that true?
That is true, George. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, it says here you are a doctor.
Yes, I'm the fake kind, though.
Yeah, PhD in public policy from the University of Colorado, Denver. But you got your undergrad from Duke University. That may actually have made Brian Gray from Alpine Planning happy. He is also, sadly, a Duke person. I imagine you're still a good person, though.
Oh, I try my best. We're not that bad.
No, well, it depends. If you went to North Carolina, you are the Antichrist. So
they are the worst.
That's what I've heard. Now, listen, first off, tell folks, what is CMAS? How often is it given? And then we'll talk about what you see coming out of these latest results that have been revealed.
CMAS is our statewide assessment. So every kid in 3rd through 8th grade in a public school takes this test. It's just 2 subjects, English language arts and math, that is measured every year. And then science is also given intermittently. But the main focus is on math, reading, and writing, those really essential core skills. And we get that test once a year. We did not test during the pandemic. So what we are seeing now is kind of this reflection of how are we now versus pre-pandemic.
And is there an overarching thing that could be taken from this, or is this really school district to school district wide, as whether people have successfully worked their way out of the pandemic weakness from education?
Absolutely. This data is really useful. I know nobody likes taking a test, but it is really useful because it's the only apples to apples comparison we have to really see how students in different schools and different districts are doing compared to their peers. And so you can get the statewide aggregate look, which isn't pretty. And then you can drill down to district by district and you see some variation between how districts are doing.
Tell us about, first off, statewide. You said those numbers aren't pretty. What do they reveal to us?
Yeah, so we right now statewide on average, our 3rd through 8th graders, about a third, 33% are proficient in math and 44% are on grade level in reading and writing.
Good Lord.
That's the statewide average.
Good Lord. That's less than half on both of those. My God, 1 out of 3 are proficient in, did you say math?
In math, yes.
Well, has it always been like that? I mean, I can't believe it's ever been 100% or 90%, but what was it pre-pandemic?
So we're pretty close to getting to pre-pandemic levels. So yeah, what that tells you is we weren't knocking it out of the park before the pandemic, but we have not even caught up to our 2019 levels. So we are still slightly behind where our 2019 scores were.
Listen, who sets these standards?
The standards are set at the state level, the state board, and I will say we have high expectations for kids, which is the right thing to do. We want to hold the bar high, and plenty of research shows that that's, you don't want to lower the bar, right?
No.
Putting the bar high, we want kids to try to aim for it. So that's the right thing to do. Where we're clearly missing is on the execution of really getting kids to reach that high bar. So getting all kids.
It's much worse than those numbers, which are appalling, because if you look at, and I'm looking at a thing here that has maybe the top 10 schools, Colorado's top schools, what it tells you is that if that's the average and you have a number of schools scoring in that 80 to 90 percentile range, there are some schools out there who are dumpster fires of education.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more than individual schools, looking at groups of students as well is just quite alarming. And I think that's actually the big headline in my mind of this test release, is that the kids who are hurt the most by COVID are those kids who are already behind.
Oh,
so they were already behind grade level, and you can actually see they had the biggest drops during the pandemic, and they've had the slowest recovery. So they haven't had the same kind of curve of recovery as other students who were higher performing to begin with. So clearly not what we wanted.
Does this test tell you the why? I mean, it's a great way to mark where education is and the students and all that stuff, but does it help us figure out how to fix it?
I think once school leaders have that data, then they are able to drill down and say, all right, well, we did great in math. We actually did good in math across the board, except for in fourth grade. So let's see what's going on in fourth grade and work with that teacher and that instructional program and see what's going on. So it certainly can be used once you drill down to help, write the course.
There's this Denver Gazette article that tries to distill some of this information, and it said in Metro Denver, and this makes me feel good because I live in Douglas County. It says only Douglas County, which showed the highest improvement with 56% and a difference of 4.55 points from 2019, blah, 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 blah. It's the only district whose CMAS results have improved compared to 2019. All other Denver districts showed declines in the portions of students meeting or exceeding either the math or English standards. Wow.
It's pretty impressive.
Why
do you see look at what Douglas County is doing?
Well, let me ask, why is that? Because and again, this information is a little bit dated, right? It's from 2022. Is that correct?
No, it's just from this past spring. So these are the tests they took in April, May. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I see every year great teachers for my kids leaving the middle schools and wherever to go up the road to Cherry Creek because Cherry Creek is throwing like $13,000 a year more at them than Douglas County pays. And I worry that, listen, as we lose good, talented teachers, and we have great charter schools too. All my kids have been through charter school K through 5. I worry that we're going to see a loss in performance here, but this looks like Douglas County's still kicking butt.
It does look like that for sure. I think Superintendent Kane and all the teachers and principals should be proud. And I do think what's great about this data is you are able to see school and district levels that we can start to look at. Oh, well, they did really well. Let's go figure out what they're doing there, and who's really not only just meeting a high bar, but who's growing students. So how much growth are students making from year to year, regardless of where they're starting?
Do you go down and parse out charter schools versus neighborhood schools and see how they perform?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we are still in the midst of doing that data analysis. So this was just sort of the first dump of data that CDE put out yesterday, and there'll be more to come, including a holistic view of how your school performs, which takes into account not just are you on grade level, but again, that growth factor of how much did you grow. So that data is going to come out next week, and we also can start to see how charter schools are comparing to their neighborhood schools.
So interesting. I'm scrolling through this thing. It's just very, very striking to me, the disparity in the performance of some of the schools. Now, it doesn't have your bottom performers, but it has your top performers. And some of these schools, Denison Elementary School, which my nieces went to, which is great, that thing is crushing it. It's almost like at 90% for math and English. But then if you look at some of the other averages and the statewide stuff and the other school districts, what is going on here? Brenda, what's the fix for this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously nobody has a silver bullet because we would have used it already. But I do think there are solutions. Do you think so?
Do you really think we would have if we knew the answer?
That's a good point, George. No, it's a really great point, because what I was about to follow it up with is we do know something that works, and we're not doing enough of it by any means. And that is charter schools, which you mentioned. I do expect this data to show that charter schools continue to outperform districts, because that's what they've historically done. And we also know that charter schools, most importantly, because I mentioned those lower performing schools, that kids that got hit the hardest, they tend to be low income students, kids of color. Charter schools do better for those kiddos than district run schools do. And so now we're seeing that our district run schools are completely failing those kids. Why aren't we turning to what we know works, which are these really incredible charter networks that get these students back to grade level, above grade level, they get them to college?
This is interesting too. It breaks it down, a performance by gender. We're talking with Brenda Dickhoner. She's the president and CEO of Ready Colorado. They are all education all the time. Performance by gender. And it's kind of like the stereotype you'd picture in your head. You probably already know this, Brenda, but for females, 48.3% are proficient at their level for English and only 30.6% for math. For dudes, it's 35% in math and only 39.4% in English. I mean, that stereotype is kids at this age tend to be, if you're a dude, better at math and females better at language arts. Is that a gender thing? Is it a cultural thing? Is it a way we approach education thing? Any idea?
It is. It has been a historic trend, has been girls outperforming boys in reading and writing, and then the reverse for math. But I think what actually is the most notable takeaway from this is middle school girls have dropped significantly in reading and writing.
Oh, they have.
So it almost looks like boys are doing better. But what really happened was, because the gap shrunk, what's really happened is our middle school girls are struggling, and I think it's one of the worst drops in performance of any other subgroup we've seen. English learners and middle school girls are having the slowest COVID recovery, and I think it's really something we need to be paying attention to.
What's your best guess? I mean, you're a doctor. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
I mean, I do.
What's the reason why that particular demographic would? I get English learners. I understand that.
Yeah.
But why female middle schoolers?
I think that we all know middle school is a rough time, right, George?
Oh yeah.
But I think it's been really particularly hard for middle school girls. I mean, we've all seen the headlines around mental health, and I think you're starting to see the repercussions of these broader cultural struggles on their academic future. I just want to throw a shout out to State Board of Education member Steve Durham, because he spoke about this really eloquently to say, look, we know that there's a mental health crisis with our middle school girls, but we just keep trying to throw Band-Aids at it and to try to, treat the symptoms rather than diagnose the problem. And, he was just throwing out simple things like, can we just ban, cell phones in school, get rid of social media during the school day? I think there's these things that we're not, like low-hanging fruit that we're not even talking about right now.
So what's next here? When you said there's going to be more release of information, what is it that we think we're going to end up seeing here that might point us in the right direction towards, I don't know if it's school funding. Is everything school funding these days? Is there some other answer?
Yeah, again, we'll look at the complete school performance framework that will come out, which is that combination of the achievement and the growth. And we'll try to identify those bright spots. And previously, it's historically been charter schools. And so we'll try to find those bright spots and see if we can look at the trends and see which charter schools are, continuing to do great things. And then we'll continue to advocate for the expansion and replication of those schools. Its charter growth has really slowed down in our state.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the teachers union is quite powerful. And I think, local school boards don't want to approve charter schools that are going to compete with them and take away students from their union-run schools.
Well, there are the two routes, right, to become a charter school. One is there's some state system, and then there's the local system. Is that true?
You can be authorized by the state. It's called the Charter School Institute, but only if the local district lets you. So either way, you have to get through the local school board, which is just a huge problem. And it's just why we see so few charter schools opening up each year.
Has that changed over the years? And what is the thing that's changed? Is it the composition of the school boards themselves?
Yeah, the local school boards still remain very, predominantly controlled by unions and by the kind of union representatives. Certainly, we're seeing some school boards flip to kind of being more friendly to charter schools. We're hoping to pick up some more seats this fall. So I would say, make sure you're looking at those races and keeping an eye on candidates and vote for the candidate that supports school choice.
Now, listen, we know that teachers' unions are all about the kids. I'm kidding. We know
right?
They're supposed to be all about the kids. And you have just told us that the numbers show consistently that the kids in charter schools are performing better than the kids in the neighborhood schools. I don't get it. Why are teachers' unions opposed to charter schools?
I mean, it's really about money and power, and I don't really think it's any more complicated than that. And their membership's based on having a union in a school, and charter schools don't have unions. I mean, I think it's as simple as that.
there's one other thing, and you and I may have talked about this on the air a while ago when I had you on, but there is one pervasive argument out there from the big time teachers union folks. And that is, well, look, the charter schools outperform the neighborhood schools because they cherry pick their students. They exclude people who are, more challenging or disabled or lower socioeconomic or anything like that. Do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I think this is why it's also really important to look. This grade level data, are you on grade level or not, is very important. I mean, that's our goal, right? To get kids on grade level. But we also need to look at that growth of how kids are performing, because that's what really shows, even if you're below grade level, which, tends to be, our students coming from some of these more impacted communities, how much growth you're making shows that success of that teacher in that school. And so there are charter schools that are serving low income students of color and getting extremely high growth for those kids. And they're certainly not cherry picking. They're very diverse. Look at DSST, it's 90% students of color. And they're doing really, really well. So that's why it's important to look at that complete look of the school and the demographics. But that's certainly not a true statement to make. And charter schools are just as diverse as, as regular district run schools. So they have, we have some schools that are serving more of the higher gifted and talented type students, but there are district schools that are magnets for gifted and talented students as well. So I would say there's good examples of charter schools serving diverse students, getting exceptional outcomes.
And Brenda, if you don't mind me asking, how many kids do you have that you know of?
How many kids? I think just 2.
And are they going to school yet? And do you have plans on where you will send them?
I have a second grader in our district-run neighborhood school, and I have my preschooler at a lovely little Lutheran private preschool right now.
So there you go.
So there you go.
And do you know whether they'll go to the neighborhood middle school and high school, or have you guys made plans yet for that? And I'm not trying to pry. I'm just I want folks to understand you're someone who consumes the public education, right? Like your second grader is in public education right now. I think that's important.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's important to think about. Like, charter schools are public schools, right?
Yep.
So there's also this big myth about that. And I've been working in public schools in this space for my whole career. I think 85% of Colorado kids attend a public school. So as much as I would love to see a voucher ESA education savings account system in Colorado, the reality is our kids are being educated in public schools, and we have to fix public schools. And my kids are in it right now, but what's the beauty of it is I know I have choices, and I will move my kids to a school that fits their needs as soon as I see we need to do that, right?
Which county are you in, Brenda?
I am in the great county of Jefferson County.
I'm so sorry. No, I'm kidding. I was educated in Jefferson County. I was Belmar Elementary, Carmody Junior High, and Bear Creek High School. So it was all public school for me and my brother and my sister all day long. So I'm invested. My kids have all gone. Yeah. I need public education to be awesome, not 5 years from now, but today, right? Like, I've got 2 left, and in 5 years, they're all going to be off, hopefully earning tax money and paying tax money. But I need public education to be awesome today.
Absolutely. And that's where, we're mediocre at best, and then we're absolutely just failing thousands of kids across the state. And so I do hope that this data is every year, we kind of pound this drum saying, we really hope this is a call to action, like, take this seriously. We have 25% of Hispanic students reading on grade level, 1 in 4. That's it.
That's nuts.
We have to do better.
That is nuts. Brenda Dickhoner, she is the president and CEO of Ready, Colorado. Despite being a Duke grad, she sounds incredibly experienced and knowledgeable on this. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, George.
See you, Brenda. Hey, listen, any thoughts on that? I guess I've always wondered too, like, have you sent your kids to some place other than your neighborhood school? And if so, why did you do it? Faith is the biggest one for me, right? Like, I can see people sending kids to school for faith-based reasons, and then you end up kind of getting punched because you're still paying taxes for the local schools, but you're also paying for private schools as well. And then it kind of gets us back to this discussion of the universal pre-K thing, which apparently is only universal if you exclude Catholic schools from the universe. It's universal if you're secular. That's the only way you can qualify for those funds. Anyway, happy to continue to go through the text. More report in here as we go. 303-696-1971 is the number. Here's just one. The Catholic Church needs to figure out their own problems with abuse. Where is God and why is he allowing that? Those are all important conversations to have that really don't have anything to do with at least the issue of whether or not they should be discriminated against for purposes of what has been mistitled universal pre-K. It's only universal if you're going to exclude these other church schools. I'm kind of taken with the argument that they're like, listen, we have existing programs. We're losing out. The state is now competing with us and specifically setting up rules to discriminate against us. It's just very, very interesting. 303-696-1971 is the number. Before we cut away, I got to tell you about Mitch Floria from the Art of Granite. Mitch is a guy that he and his company install countertops in your kitchen and in your bathroom. And if that doesn't get your attention, then you don't have the right countertop in your kitchen or in your bathroom. If you go to someone's house, and I know over the summer, it's a lot of barbecues and stuff in the backyard, but if you're getting inside there and you ever go, whoa, that is really eye-catching. That is striking. I wish I had something like that in my house. This is the guy to call. By the way, it costs you nothing to call him. Doesn't cost you anything either than just the drive to go out and see him at his showroom right there at about Colfax-ish and 6th Avenue. And when you go in, bring your credit card because you're going to ink the deal with this guy. He's just that compelling and that persuasive. And the selection is breathtaking. I mean, it's not just granite. And I know it's theartofgranite.com, theartofgranite.com, but it's not just granite. They do marble, they do quartz, the things that God does with stone and the things that man can do with the quartz. I mean, it's incredible stuff. You should go to his showroom, check it out, go to theartofgranite.com and you get a taste for it. But really pick up the phone and call this guy. Call Mitch on the phone that rings in his pocket. 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. When you do, be sure to mention, heard about you on the George Show on 710 KNUS. You do that and you get more than the wholesale prices he passes on to you. He throws in the bathroom countertop for FREE free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, that's okay. He's going to find a way to make it right. He's going to give you the sink for free with the rest of the package. Give him a call. It's Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. When we come back, Brad, two Brads. I don't think we've ever had back-to-back Brads, and everyone else at 303-696-1971. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes, all in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Going to go right to the phone lines. Brad from Arvada. You're on 710 KNUS. Brad, what do you think? Hello, Brad from Arvada.
Hey, I'm Brad from Aurora.
Damn it, it says Arvada. I blame Billy because he's not listening. Go ahead.
Well, that's all right. Hey, George. Yeah, I appreciated that last segment with
Brenda. Yeah.
Your guest with Brenda. Yeah. And you asked about people's experience and what they did. We have 3 kids. They're all adults now, but we decided to bring them home and homeschool them. Just looking at what was happening in the schools, it was not pretty, obviously.
Yeah.
And for a variety of reasons.
Well, what county are you in? Are you in?
I'm in Arapahoe.
Okay.
We'd be in the Aurora Public Schools.
Okay.
And the reality is faith was a big part of it. But as much as faith was wanting our kids to have a quality education, the reality is, as my wife often said, it's not so much what they're teaching our kids from a social standpoint, especially, this was a decade plus ago that our kids graduated, but it's what they don't teach them. It's the civics, it's the math, the English, the different things that so often are missed in the public schools, simply because there's just only so much time in the day, and they spend so much time learning social things, what bathroom to use, etc.
Listen, huge challenge. Did you and your wife divide this up, or was it predominantly your wife, or how'd you do it?
Predominantly my wife. She is also a teacher.
Okay.
And so we both have advanced degrees. I'm a pastor, and so I was able to help out a good bit. We took advantage of everything, the local library system. We took advantage of some online resources. Honestly, there is so much out there for homeschoolers that is a great option. It obviously requires one of the parents to be home at least the majority of the day, or split shifts to be able to trade off. But honestly, it was probably the single best decision we made as a family in all of our years. All 3 kids graduated high school, went on to 4-year university, private university, graduated. 2 went on and got master's degrees, and all 3 of them are doing extremely well. We couldn't be more proud of our kids. And quite honestly,
Brad, did they have to take those tests, like Brenda talked about, CMAS or whatever the equivalent was back then?
Yeah, they took standardized testing every 2 years. That was what the Colorado homeschool laws required them to do that. And then to have a school, we chose a private Christian school to monitor that progress. And as long as they, honestly, I think it was like the 30 percentile, as long as they were above that, then we were good to go. Our kids honestly maxed out in the top 20% of the national averages. It was, I forget which standardized test it was, Iowa, I think. But nonetheless, no, I just want to put a plug out for all of those listening. Anyone, if you want to take the time, if you love your kids, you really want to make sure they get a quality education. Sometimes you can't afford a private school. I don't see any option in the public schools anymore. And so
not even charter?
Not even charter. I just, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Although I'm going to be fair, I've not had any personal experience with charter schools, and maybe I'm jaded, but I just see the approach, and I think this is where the faith comes into things. I just found a fascinating adventure, if you will, and exciting. And it wasn't all roses, but at any rate, we found that the homeschool experience was fantastic, and hopefully some of your listeners are doing that already. And if not, maybe give a shot at it. Take a look at it.
Brad, I appreciate the call, my man. I love the story. I'll say this. Did I have a conversation with mom about it? Yeah, neither of us had the patience. I could not have pulled that off. I think it takes a special kind of commitment and a special kind of person. We were very happy with Platte River Academy out there off of Colorado, right by Highlands Ranch Parkway. Thought that was fantastic experience for the kids. I know it put them ahead because every one of them in 6th grade said the same thing, and that is, Dad, we're learning all the stuff we'd already covered last year. And then, of course, they got slowed down to what is regular, but we've been thrilled. Rocky Heights Middle School, love it. Chris Cook, fantastic principal. And then Rock Canyon with Abner there, we love that school. We think they do a great job. It doesn't mean there aren't good alternatives, maybe even better alternatives, but I'm interested in the fact that Douglas County seems to stand alone in the metro area on this last CMAS analysis as to having seemingly improved base over their pre-pandemic scores. No other metro area school district has. Why is that? 303-696-1971. Brad, you're on 710 KNUS. Brad, what do you think?
Hello, just a note of clarification from the last segment. The education unions are not supposed to serve the kids. The motivation for those to exist is for their members, which is the educators. So sometimes you get pushback from the unions on stuff that might help the kids, but if it is viewed as maybe damaging to the unions, it's difficult to make change sometimes. I think, and that's a part of the problem.
Yeah, I think that's true, Brad. I think the theory is that, look, the teachers who are educating the kids have their best interests at heart in terms of the education piece, and therefore the union that seeks to support the teachers must, by extension, have that same thing as a priority. I don't believe that. I think the teachers want to be the best educators for these kids possible, but I think the unions care, like you said, more about the membership than they do the kids.
I agree. That's sometimes part of the issue, and it is a big part of the problem, but there are other things that go on as well, but that's one of them.
Well, Brad, can I ask, do you have kids that you know of?
I have four.
How old are they?
They're adults now, all of them.
Did they all go through public school?
They did.
Where?
Yeah. Different places. Westminster, Stanley Lake, trying to think. Most of them went to Stanley Lake.
And how do you feel like they were educated? Good? Well, maybe that's the better one.
I would say, yeah. I would say, well, my youngest is 30 something, and so that was quite a while ago. And I would say, well.
Do you feel like the teachers union played a predominant role in the education, or at least the quality of the education that your kids got at Stanley Lake?
No, back then, the union did not seem to be as prominent of a role in the education. Maybe they had a bigger role in the educators' lives than I recognized. But
Brad, did you ever consider, Brad, a charter school or private school?
No, didn't feel the need then.
So you thought the education was good enough?
Yeah.
Brad, I appreciate the phone call, my man. Have a great weekend. 303-696-1971 is the phone number. We're going to cut away for a break before we come back and re-engage you on the text, on the phone calls. I want to tell you about Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team at Keller Williams. They're the best at what they do, and what they do is they make dreams come true. Dreams related to your family and the home that they live in. Whether it's getting out of your house right now or getting into that new dream house, you heard Brian Gray from Alpine Planning at the end of the last hour talking about how we are at interest rates that are higher now than they've been in 20 years. That makes it incredibly challenging when you start to think in terms of how are we going to get into a new house? Can anyone afford my house? No need for you to just simply cross your fingers and make a random decision about a realtor. Call Gay Ribble at Empower Home Team at Keller Williams, 833-301-SOLD. They've been doing this work for so long. They've seen every kind of market. They remember when rates were this high before and how they navigated those for their many, many clients. They have 14,000 plus people on their list, buyers in waiting, just waiting for you to list your house with them. That's how they get multiple offers, each one better than the last for you to choose from. 833 301-SOLD. They make promises no other realtors will. They give you the handshake, the guarantee to sell your home within a certain period of time at a certain price. You can check her out at Gaye, Gaye, hasthebuyers.com. GayHasTheBuyers.com. When we come back, you, me, the text coming in, 303-696-1971, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Listen, text coming in. It's touching upon all the things we've touched on this morning so far, including the Catholicism thing, people taking shots at the union, which I'm no fan of unions in general, let alone unions that take on that the government should never be unionized. That's an opinion that I have held since I could hold opinions. And yet that's sort of what the teachers union is. I'm in agreement that their primary focus is teachers. And if that means kids get less quality education because they're protecting the C student teachers out there, by God, they're going to do it. I agree with that. But I also think that there's something interesting in these CMAS scores about Douglas County. Now, listen, there's a ballot measure on this year, 5A and 5B, and it would be a mill levy override. And for those that don't know what that is, it means you probably don't own property that you pay taxes on. The mill levy is how you get the property taxes. The override is something that is really a direct response to Tabor, and it's an opportunity to increase the amount that individual property owners pay. And in this case, for 5A and 5B, they are targeted towards increasing the pay of teachers. I'm telling you firsthand, I see every single year teachers bailing. I'll give you a perfect example. There was a guy named Fruits who was this wonderfully inspirational band leading music theory guy at Rock Canyon. My son, Jeff, loved this guy. This guy talked Jeff into signing up for band, which my son's not a band guy. And then in the cover of summer, dude just bolted and went to Cherry Creek because they offered him 5 figures more than he was making in Douglas County. That's not an anomaly. That's every single year. I talk to more and more teachers every year who are like, hey, man, I think I'm going to have to move into Cherry Creek. And it's usually always Cherry Creek, I got to move because, $13,000 more a year is real money. So I don't know how long this can keep up, but it's interesting to me that Douglas County is still kicking butt when it comes to performance of students on these big time tests, these big time assessments. And I think a lot of that has to do with the quality of education. I also think a lot of it has to do with the engagement of parents with their kids. If you look at some of the statistics that we did not talk to Brenda Dickhoner from Raleigh, Colorado about, man, it is clear to me there is a huge distinction between the performance based on race. Asians number one, others well below that. And you could say, oh, it's because the testing is racist. That's garbage. It's because more often than not, you're talking about lower socioeconomic, demographically, these groups. We need to tackle the economic part, and you'll see those numbers change. It's just fascinating to me that those school districts that are so, I don't know how to describe it, that are in the biggest Democrat-controlled parts of the state seem to perform worse than a very conservative county like Douglas County. I know, big tax base, I get it, but there's something else going on there. Hey, listen, when we come back, I want to change it up a bit. There's something that happened. I don't know if you've been tracking this. Ron DeSantis getting ready for the big old debate on Fox News. Some information got leaked out there on the media, or was it intentionally put out there in the media? And it gets me to wondering also, who the heck is going to show up for this debate? It's next week. Is it going to be just Ron and Vivek and all the other also-rans, or is the big fella going to be there? Is DJT going to show up on the stage, and should he? Fascinated by the tactics there and by the decision-making. I'll tell you my opinion when we come back, and I'd love to hear yours too. 303-696-1971. Is it smart? Is it gutless? We'll talk more about it when we come back. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
afraid that people would have gone into the park.
George Brauchler with you here. Final hour of the week before we head into the weekend. It's 710 KNUS, our number, and folks have already jumped on top of this. 303-696-1971, the topic that I teased was one involving the presidential debate being hosted by Fox News in Milwaukee. Next week, that's on Wednesday, the 23rd, 9 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, using my public school math skills. That's 7 p.m. our time. We're likely to talk about the aftermath of it on Thursday, which is good news for us. There's also, just as an aside, we got all of these limitations on how we can use the sound and how much we can use and all this other stuff from Fox. So I'm telling you, my initial gut reaction was, well, then screw you. I'm not even going to talk about your debate. I mean, if you're going to limit how I can critique this and the performance on it, then we're not even going to discuss it. And then I thought that sounds dumb too, because it's the first presidential debate. It's kind of a big deal. There's certain standards that candidates have to meet in order to make it on the stage. Like, I'm not even sure Asa Hutchins, the former governor of Arkansas, makes it onto the stage. But all the other big names, the alternatives, if you will, the offered alternatives to President Trump, are all going to be there, including Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Ronnie D. The question, though, is, will Trump show up? Should he show up? Now, a couple weird things have taken place that made this more of a current events issue today. One of them is there's an organization out there, a third-party organization funded by a super PAC that's very pro Ron DeSantis, and they have put out on their website, I think it might be down now, or at least the overarching memo was, but they had put out information about the strategy that Ron DeSantis should take in order to be successful at this debate. And it has pretty specific advice on it, right? Like, here's one. On the 4 basic must-dos on the debate stage, here's a quote. Ron DeSantis needs to take a sledgehammer to Vivek Ramaswamy. He should, quote, defend Donald Trump when Chris Christie inevitably attacks the former president. And he needs to, quote, attack Joe Biden in the media no less than 3 to 5 times. Now, you might think, wow, what a huge mistake. How did it accidentally get put up there? That's not true, because the way the federal election laws work, and it's true here at the state level in Colorado, is you can have third-party outside groups working to support different causes, candidates, issues, all that other stuff, but they may not coordinate with them. So had this exact same PAC-driven organization sent the memo directly to Ron DeSantis's campaign, they're going to be in trouble. But if they post it and Ron DeSantis's folks get to it, well, that's different. Here's what makes this a little bit weird. Usually you create some obscure website that nobody's looking at where you can post this, and then innocuously, just by chance, the campaign happens upon it and they get to read it and see it. Well, this one was posted to the actual website of the consultant company. That's very interesting. So it gets me to wonder, one, are we going to see this? Listen, obviously it's a double-edged sword here, because maybe it gives good advice. Some of this stuff makes total sense to me, but now all of his opponents on the stage have it too. And anything Ron does that's now consistent with that, someone's going to say, hey, I got the same memo. Looks like you're supposed, you know what I mean? So it looks weak. But then it got me to thinking, well, wait a minute. This memo presupposes, in my opinion, that Donald Trump isn't going to be there. And if we had the sound, I would play for you the most recent sound where DJT is out there saying, hey, I'd love to do the debate, but I don't know if I should. I mean, I'm up by 70 points or something like that. I don't even know if I should. You want a smart president, And I thought to myself, wait, is this about being a smart president? Is this just merely about what do I need to do to win? Or is this about demonstrating to a voting public why you're this popular? Why you are a better choice than Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, fill in the blank. And that's what I wonder about, is this guy's too smart to get tripped up. Others are going to say, Don, don't do it. Don't do it. Because all that can happen is you can make a mistake. And that's the only thing that ever comes out of a debate. Nobody ever wins a debate, but a lot of people lose debates. That's true, by the way. That's real. But in this particular case, are you yielding the field to at least one other person who will emerge as a, wow, that is a good potential alternative? You ask me who I think that person's going to be. You might say, oh, Chris Christie. I mean, the guy has surged to number 2 in New Hampshire ahead of Ron DeSantis. And that's true by 1%. It was like 8 and 7%. And I think Trump has everything else. I don't think so. I think the potential winner on this, and this speaks to the Ron DeSantis memo thing here, is Vivek. He has a very direct way of answering. He's young. He's, I don't know, conversant. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, I want to say eloquent. He's well-spoken. He has ideas. I mean, all of those things are real. I think he's still an unproven candidate. I also think that there's a legitimate question about his background, his past support for these values, these principles, and these Democrat candidates. That's all legitimate stuff. I don't know if that'll get ferreted out during the debate. But I could see a lot of punches being thrown at Vivek. But the question for me is, should Donald Trump be there? And I tell you the answer is 100% yes. This isn't a guy that takes the layup. This isn't a guy that just sits back and lets other people duke it out and then he swoops in to collect the nomination. That's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a fighter, and fighters don't wait outside the ring to see what happens. Fighters get in the ring to make it happen. In fact, my concern here is that this guy doesn't show up for the debates. Not only does he lose a little bit of momentum, but someone else reveals themselves to maybe be a better alternative. Maybe it's Ron. Maybe it's Vivek. I don't know. But it won't be Don. Don can't gain points in this debate, in my opinion. I could be proven wrong by a poll, but I don't think so. But more than that, I think it looks weak. I think it looks weak to not jump into this fray, to not reestablish, this is why I'm your choice, because it looks like he's hiding. If he's going to take the conservative layup route, well, maybe he's not the guy that we thought he was. Maybe he's not the fighter that we think he is and that we need. 303-696-1971. You know, we had a couple Brads in the last hour. Now we have a couple Steves. This one says, Steve from Denver, you're on 710. Steve, what do you think?
Well,
hello.
Hello. You got me?
I got you. All of you.
Okay. Okay. I would tell Trump not to show up because there's going to be several more debates. I think a good strategy for him would be to not go to the first two, and then he sees where they're attacking him at, and he would have a better chance at not putting his foot in his mouth with the spontaneous reactions, and he could come in a little more measured and look a little more even-handed, which the people who love him, they're whatever he does, they're not going to change their mind, but he needs to appear to be a more measured person if he wants to get some of those suburban moms.
You think he has to act like someone he's not in order to be attractive to those, as you described in the moms, but the unaffiliated?
Well, he could know what's coming, and so that, you know, he's still going to be saying what he's going to say, but he could appear to be more measured. So, yeah, I mean, isn't that what a great politician does? You got to be a chameleon, you got to be a fake, you got to lie and cheat. So, you know, if he's not being who he is to get votes, that would be shockingly smart of him, and probably he's so ill-tempered he could never probably do it. But that's what I would do if I was on his side. But I'm rooting for Vivek.
Why are you rooting for him? Is it Vivek or Vivek? Am I missing? I'm not trying to mispronounce anybody's name here. I'm just prone to doing it.
And I don't know either. Okay. But I think he's a dynamic speaker, and it would be fun to see a Republican face like that at the top of the ticket. And
does it concern you at all that dude's been giving out money within the recent past to a bunch of Dem candidates for various offices?
Yeah, that's going to be that's not going to look good. But he could spin that with, hey, look, you know, Joe Biden didn't he ran on bringing us back together, and he divided us more. And yeah, I'm going to work with the Democrats.
Do you think that's going to win over the Trump folks? Because the Trump folks aren't about working with Democrats. They're about defeating Democrats, you know?
True. Yeah. But I'm hoping they would not want a Democrat to be in there.
Does it bother you? Bother's too strong of a word. Does it concern you that Vivek or Vivek or however you say his name is Hindu?
No. Why don't you just go with V squared?
V squared? Well, because it's a V squared, I guess, within the first name. It could be VR, like virtual reality, or the big V. I stand with V. Let's say V. Does it concern you at all that he's Hindu? And I don't mean that in a discriminatory way. I mean that here's a guy that is pitching to a pretty conservative Republican base who may be a practitioner of a faith with multiple gods. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, is that an issue? If you're looking to get someone who's going to appeal to the greatest number of American voters, is it someone who believes in, Vishnu and Shiva and all the other many gods?
I would hope not, but that's a pretty good point. Old Bubba might not like that.
I don't know if it's Bubba, but I don't know the answer. He hasn't really discussed it. And, in an America that is tolerant, at least under the First Amendment, of anyone's faith, and anyone's faith shouldn't disqualify them from running. I just wonder, on a practical basis, a guy who has held himself out to be, without saying the words, he seems to want to be courting the Christians, to then reveal, maybe he won't, that, by the way, I believe in all these other gods. I just don't know what it does to the Christian base. Do they just hold their nose and vote for him because otherwise you end up with pro-choice Joe? Or I don't know the answer. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, it would be a fun race to watch.
It would be fun, but I want to see Trump take them on right now. Steve, thank you for the phone call. Steve's line is open, 303-696-1971. We're now going to go to Steve. Steve, it says here on my call screen you're from Costa Mesa, California, but that can't be true.
That's not true. My area code is from Costa Mesa, but now I'm in the beautiful town of Parker.
Okay, so you're in Douglas County with its great school district. What do you think about this?
Yes, that was what I called about initially, but then we moved on to a new topic, which I'm glad to dive into.
Yeah.
So before I dive in, if I could politely take exception to something you expressed as a truism a couple of moments ago.
Oh, okay,
that no one ever wins the debate. I would argue that Kennedy beat Nixon, and so would most political observers, I think, looking at it historically, and also even more recently that Reagan beat Carter. So I'll throw that out there for someone to sort of analyze.
Is that contrary to something I said? Oh, you're talking about winning. Yeah, winning.
Yeah, you said it's true that no one wins debates, and I would politely disagree with that. I think there's a couple we can point to, but generally speaking, it's tough to do, especially in the modern era.
Yeah, I think maybe you're perceived the winner by virtue of the other person's performance. I mean, what's been said, and you've probably heard this about the Kennedy-Nixon debate from '60, was that anybody who listened to the debate on the radio thought that Nixon had won and Kennedy had lost, but anyone who saw the debate on television thought that Kennedy had won and Nixon had lost. That may have more to do with the physical appearance stuff than anything else, but interesting. But I get your point. Thank you for making it.
And we are, and we are now far more than 1960, of course, in the television age and visual media. So there we go. But anyway, moving on to the question at hand. The previous caller expressed a notion that I think was way off, with all due respect to him, that Trump should appear in the debate and use the opportunity to appear to be more measured.
He said in a later debate, not the first one, but in like
later
the
debate.
third
Okay,
one.
yeah.
He said he should
Trump
skip the first two.
Even on the advice of his closest family members and children, they asked him to be more measured with his tweets. And well, what did we get? Not more measured. That's not going to happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not in his nature. And speaking of his nature, which gets to the core of my phone call, my point, I believe he should definitely show up. I'd kind of be surprised if he didn't, despite all the scuttlebutt suggesting that he won't, because like you said in your opening to this segment, he is a fighter. He is a scrapper. And looking back at 2020, he started off with 18 or 19 opponents, the top tier of which were pretty well-moneyed, pretty politically savvy folks, right? And he came out on top, obviously. So This time around, the current field doesn't appear to be quite so strong. DeSantis could be argued to be strong politically and financially, but he's come out pretty weak so far in terms of his approach to the campaign. That's what most folks are saying. Then you have Mr. Ramaswamy. I'll avoid the first name issue there with the previous caller.
Someone texted in.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
It's Vivek like cake, but what's the VI part? Is it Vi?
I know.
I don't know.
I
need to figure that out.
It said both ways. But he is, of all the people, including Trump, he's probably the most skilled person at speaking extemporaneously, which is difficult to do. People trip up on themselves all the time when they're speaking off the cuff. That's why teleprompters exist, even for skilled politicians. But anyway, even though he's a good speaker and probably therefore a pretty decent debater, he's shown throughout the last few months, he's not here to take Trump on head to head. He's coming up just shy of being able to be credibly accused of kissing up to Trump, sort of. The term has been used a lot that he's auditioning for a position in the Trump administration, not that he's seriously running for president. So even though he could be a verbal jouster, perhaps equal to Trump, he's not going to do that. He's going to avoid that. He's going to focus on issues. He's going to criticize Biden.
Well, then you agree he cannot win. You can't beat Trump if you don't take on Trump.
He can't win. He's the youngest Republican ever to run for president. Youth implies vigor, but it also implies inexperience. And aside from whatever his religious or cultural background may be, I'm a hardcore evangelical Christian. If I agreed with the guy's policies, I would vote for him in a second. I don't care if he's Hindu. We are supposed to be a religious blind society, and I am when it comes to picking my leaders. I won't say, oh well, he might not be a Christian. But Trump, as you say, if he doesn't show up, it looks weak. It's not in his nature to look weak. He loves a fight. When he doesn't have an active fight going on, he'll jump on Twitter and find some actress who said something unkind about him and create a fight, right? So he's done that how many times? So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't show up. Yes, he's far, far ahead, supposedly in the polls, but also it's way, way early in this thing.
Well, that's true.
And hopefully,
but Steve, let me ask you this. One of the prerequisites that Fox has for participation in this, because I think it's done in coordination with the Republican folks, is that you have to take a loyalty pledge. And that is, you promise to support whoever the Republican nominee is. And despite the fact that Trump is 8 billion points ahead, he's like, I'm not doing it. I didn't do it last time. I'm not doing it now. What do you think of that?
Nobody can extract those kinds of promises from Trump. I mean, the guy, he started off with a free 10 mil from his dad for his real estate empire, but then a lot of people will start off that way and blow it all on fast cars and et cetera. He took the 10 mil and turned it into multiple billions, right? So he's a pretty savvy guy when it comes to negotiating, and he's not going to let anybody box him in.
No, but do you agree with that? Do you think he should take the loyalty pledge? Not whether he would.
No.
And why not?
No, because it makes him appear like somebody else is bossing him around. And as we learned on The Apprentice, he loves to say, you're fired. He's the boss. He's not going to let Fox boss him around, especially not Rupert Murdoch after they cut loose Tucker. But that being said about Fox, of all the potential, number of potential hosts of the debate, let's face it, Fox is probably one of the most friendly outlets potentially to host a debate involving Trump, which is another reason he would probably want to show up. So, I think that him not showing up would look weak. If he doesn't show up, the argument from his side might be, well, I'm above the fray because I'm so far ahead.
That's what I think he's going to say. That's what he's intimated already.
Yeah, and he might. And the other thing, too, is, of course, Biden's not going to debate Kennedy or anybody else. So if Trump does go in and debate his lesser challengers, then he can say, well, look, Joe Biden wouldn't even debate somebody from his own party. I jumped up on the stage when I was, 35 points ahead and went for it. Here I am.
Yeah, I think that's a good argument to make. I don't think anybody would expect an incumbent president to take on someone who's a sole person, who's even Williamson, who's so low on the totem pole in terms of polling. And maybe Trump makes that argument. But I'm taken with the idea that you don't care if he takes the loyalty pledge, as if Republicans rejected him as the nominee, dude might not do anything to help Republicans win. Like it feels to me like a refusal to take that kind of a pledge sends the message to the party. This isn't about us or our values. This is about me. And if you don't pick me, well, to hell with y'all.
Well, I do have some thoughts on that I believe might be relevant, and that is that Trump has never been a hardcore Republican. In fact, how many Republicans came right out and said during the 2020 race, primary race, that he's not a Republican? Jeb Bush said that, and a couple of others, because he wasn't playing along with the party bosses, and Jeb Bush was anointed to be the next one in line by the power core in Washington, D.C.
Does he need to be hardcore to need to take that pledge? I mean, if he's not a Republican, then is he just using the party for his own personal gain?
I believe he is. I believe the first time around, if he thought that there would have been a chance for a third party formation and success, that he would have done it that way, because Trump is the antithesis of the party system. That's why he's popular. So many of us out here who, we're registered Republicans, but we see the corruption in the Republican Party. We see all the top Republicans jumping in bed with the military-industrial complex on the Ukraine war and all the things we can get into on that, which is another topic. But I'm a little bit of a disillusioned Republican myself, at least at the national level. The local level, I'm pretty thrilled with the Republicans here in Colorado, generally speaking. But at the national level, I think a lot of Republicans are just monetary sellouts. I mean, how much money has Mitch McConnell and his wife gotten from China? Yes, he held Merrick Garland off the court, and he gets a huge clap for that one.
That's a big
deal.
But
overall, there's a reason why the term the swamp stuck, because DC is a swamp. Both parties have a hand in that, and the reason my father is 90, I'm lucky to still have him, and he's a lifelong machine shop, blue collar union Democrat. He voted for Trump. And I asked him once, I said, Dad, so here you are, a lifelong blue collar union Democrat, always voted Democrat, and you're going to vote for a billionaire this time. And he said, well, because Trump says things that other people won't, things that need to be said. And that's that populist thing. Teddy Roosevelt had it. Other politicians around the world are also populist. The new lady prime minister of Italy, her name escapes me at the moment, but she's a populist. There's a growing resistance, I believe, in many countries around the world, especially in the West. There's a growing resistance to the status quo of just elite class of people, the party they happen to say they belong to. Trump was a Democrat not long before he ran, correct?
Yeah.
8 years or so. But so there's my point.
Dude was pro-choice, now he's pro-life. He was this, then he was that.
Pro-life. Yeah. So, but that could be said of a lot of politicians. But Trump is a populist first, I think, and a Republican second, and that's why he's not going to take the pledge. So
it would bother me if he doesn't take the pledge, because it makes it seem like he is counting on Republicans to vote for him because he's a Republican if he gets the nomination. But if he's not the nominee, then, well, you're just on your own. I'm not going to do anything to help out or support the other person. That just feels particularly, what's that word, narcissistic.
And I'm not sure that I disagree with that he should take it. I'm telling you that I think, explaining why I think he won't. Because Trump
is his out then, right? That gets to be his out. I'm not going to take the pledge. Fox won't let me on the stage if I don't take the pledge. Therefore,
that's a great
I'm out.
That's a great out. That is a great out.
Yeah.
But he perhaps his strategy or his thought is, I'm not trying to get Republicans to vote for me. I'm trying to get conservatives to vote for me.
Well, that's even smaller group. Hey, Steve, thanks for the very, very well thought out, articulate call. Steve's line is open at 303-696-1971. Got to cut away for a break. Can I tell you quickly, though, about a guy named DJC? Not DJT, DJC. That's Daniel J, as in some people say Joe. I say Justice. Daniel Justice Caplis. This guy is a fighter. In fact, it's funny. We were talking about how well spoken Vivek is, and somebody sent me something that they researched. George from Westminster did, saying that it's pronounced V as in the letter V and Vek, V-E-K. Okay, I'll take that. Vivek is that he sounds super articulate. He's well spoken. He's a good debater. Dude, listen, I know that being in court is a lot more about being able to just express your thoughts and to debate. But if you're looking for someone who has been debating on air and in the courtroom for decades with great success, it's Dan Caplis. I've seen a lot of trial attorneys in my mere 28 years of doing this. And make no mistake, just because you go to court doesn't mean you're good at going to court. Just because you do trials doesn't mean you're good or successful at doing trials. There are a lot of people that are out there that advocate that, hey, I'm a courtroom guy. I'm a trial attorney. And you watch them do their thing and you come away feeling like, what happened, man? Is this your second trial? Is it your first trial? You never get that sense dealing with Dan on or off the air, in person, over the phone, and certainly not in the courtroom. This is a guy who's like butter, smooth like butter, but very, very accessible to the jury. That's a big deal when you're talking about finding commonality. And it's probably why he kicks so much butt on behalf of his clients. It's probably why he's got the 5 back-to-back multi-million-dollar verdicts, the biggest outcome against a trucking company in the history of the state. It's because he's very skilled at what he does. Communication is his thing. If you want a tried, a tested, a true trial attorney to go in there and win for you, man, why call anyone else? 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551 is the phone number for the Kaplis Law Firm. You can also find them online at Dan Kaplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, dankaplis.com. When we come back, the texts that have come in, you and me, open line 303-696-1971. Should Donald Trump take the stage? And if he doesn't, is it a sign of being weak? Is it a sign of being gutless? I just can't picture a dude that strong, that much of a fighter, sitting outside the ring. Can you? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, having a conversation with you about whether Donald Trump should take the loyalty pledge and join the rest of the candidates for the Republican nomination on the stage. There are some folks that have texted and said, hey, it's already over, man. Trump has won, whether you like it or not. There's just no need for us to go through this charade anymore. I disagree. I don't want this to be a coronation, and certainly not of a guy facing 4 indictments, whether you like them or not. The constitutional crisis on the horizon is legit. And if the American voters want to sign up for it, I think they're entitled to. But do we just cede the battlefield? That doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's a chance here for someone to emerge that could be an alternative. I don't know if it's a successful alternative, but for sure an alternative. What it says to me, though, is this is a guy who isn't invested in playing the long game. I think he's got to take the loyalty pledge. Not that he will, and not that he needs to win the nomination, but I think from the standpoint of if you're a Republican, why would you ever vote for a Republican who says it's either me or I might go a different direction? How is that a commitment to the party? And maybe you don't care about the commitment to the party. And I think Steve had kind of acknowledged this. No, this guy's just using the party to get into the White House. Doesn't matter. If he thought he could have gotten in as a Democrat, he'd have done that too. Doesn't that make you feel, I don't know, uncomfortable, awkward at all? That you got folks out there who are like, oh, I'm voting for this guy, but I absolutely know he's no real Republican. He's not a hardcore Republican. He's just doing this to get there. And we should all just put all these other thoughts we have about the party mattering. They should all be secondary. What really matters is this guy. I think it's a mistake in this way. This guy's numbers with people outside of the hardcore Republican base are trash. By the way, someone's going to go, but Joe Biden, I get it. Joe Biden's are also trash. But this is a guy, I'm looking at this latest AP NORC, sorry. All of a sudden I went Lord of the Rings there. This AP NORC poll, and his very to somewhat unfavorable net ratings are disastrous. 62%. That is virtually unchanged going back to January of 2021, right after he left office. Now, while he was in office, it was a mere 55%, which is still disastrous. But that's 2 out of 3 people that are asked if they have a favorable or unfavorable opinion have said they have an unfavorable opinion of Trump. Very unfavorable. Over half of the people polled. That doesn't mean the guy can't win. I'm not saying that. Anything's possible. I'm just saying there's got to be another horse out there that we might want to take a look at. So if you're Donald Trump, do you need to show up on the podium here on the stage to win the nomination? No, you don't. But you're a fighter and you'd like to be on brand. But I think it's an opportunity to speak to the people that aren't already in your pocket. It's an opportunity to either win over the other supporters for Vivek or DeSantis or Haley, Scott, Christie, it doesn't matter, to win them over, but maybe even another opportunity to speak to those whose gut reaction right now is, I don't like you. But up on that stage, when you're answering questions, you can't lose those people any more than you've already lost them. But maybe in your performance in comparison to the other alternatives, some of those people come away and go, okay, you know what? I don't hate this guy. He's maybe not my first choice, but I don't hate this guy. And you're playing the long game. You're playing for more than the nomination. You want the big win. Jim, you're on 710 KNUS. Jim, what do you think?
Good morning, George. I'm of the realm that this loyalty pledge, he should. I mean, he's already being coordinated by the Republican establishment or by those saying that he is going to be the nominee. But the other thing is, this is the whole reason why I think he needs to be doing the debate. I think the first debate, there's going to be a lot of unaffiliated people watching that because they're so disenchanted with Biden, just to see what's out there, that this is his opportunity to show that he's not the ogre out that the media makes paints him to be. I think he's making a huge mistake.
You are speaking my language, man, which is, listen, any opportunity to get votes is a good opportunity. That's why you'd never be afraid to walk into any room. I mean, if the Democrats held a debate right now he should go to that one too, because he can't lose any of those votes. I agree with you. Jim, do you think he should take the loyalty pledge?
I don't understand why he wouldn't. I mean, if he's already being coronated as the Republican nominee, why wouldn't you? I mean, to me, it's stupid not to. It just speaks of him saying, I'm going to do things only for myself versus thinking about, what's better for the party or what's better for the country. It's kind of the reason why, I'm so disappointed in him in so many ways, but he is what we got, basically. You know what I mean?
I do. I'm living it. Are you a registered Republican, Jim?
No, I'm unaffiliated. I voted for him twice because the alternative was horrible. But, I just, to me, I became unaffiliated after this last election. There's so many things I disliked about the Republican Party. I just think I know so many people that are unaffiliated that are going to watch this first debate. First of all, Biden's being coronated on the Democrat side. So what other options do you have to look what's out there? It's going to be this first debate. I think there's going to be a lot of people watching this first debate just to see the Republican side of it.
That's interesting.
They're all
what do you think? What do you think of some folks and some of them called in here? Steve did and said, "Hey, I think he ought to sit out the first two. He shouldn't sit out all of them, but he should sit out the first two. Let the field get thinned. Maybe you jettison a Chris Christie and Nikki Haley. I'm making that up. I'm not dismissing them. I'm just saying maybe you jettison them on your way towards who the actual viable challenger is. What do you think of that?"
I think it's a big mistake because I think the viewership is going to go down with each subsequent debate.
I think you're right in this way. I think this guy needs to come out there, be on brand that, hey, I will take on all comers, and that he's also now trying to remind folks that support him, whose support may have waffled over the last however many years, to remind them, this is why you supported me. This is why you want me there. But I think you're right, Jim. I think the idea of pitching to the broader audience that may be watching, how do you pass that up?
Listen, here's the point. I listen to RFK, and he appeals to me a lot. And I think there's a lot of unaffiliated people that are listening to him and saying, God, I wish he's there. He needs to get those people. He needs to get the people that are looking for anybody else out there because of what they've read on the news media about Trump. He has not one scintilla of positive news. He needs to get people such as myself, unaffiliated, that are going to be willing to go back with him. Because if he doesn't get, that's where I've seen all of the data showing he gets the Republicans. He does not get the unaffiliated. He needs to capture those. He does not get the White House without the unaffiliated. I believe a lot of the unaffiliated are going to watch because there's nothing else out there at the moment. And I think he's making a giant mistake by not attending the debate.
I think that's
really well in the debates. He's done well in the debates. We all recognize that.
He ends campaigns on those debate stages. I don't know if that's called winning, but I mean, he makes people disappear. Low energy Jeb, by now, looking at Rand Paul and looking down and saying, I don't even know why you're on the stage. And then he never was again. I mean, it was just boom, boom. He just makes people disappear.
Totally agree. I don't think he crashed and burned on any of the debates. I think by far this is his chance to shine. I don't know who's advising him, but he's got some really bad advisors right now that are coming out and say, skip the debate. I don't want to hear this as a freaking coronation. That's disgusting to me.
Yeah, and that's not him. He shouldn't be. He hasn't been up to now the coronation guy. He's here's how I've earned it, and I'll take everybody on. Jim, great call. I appreciate that, man. Jim's line is open at 303-696-1971. Louie and the other person calling in right now, I promise I'll get to you. I just got to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll get to you. We'll wrap up the show on your words. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history with nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher. you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you for the final segment of this week's George Show on 710 KNUS. Some texts that have come in here Our friend Joan, what unaffiliated people will be watching Fox? The ratings for this debate will be the lowest ever. Maybe. I don't think he should go to the debate, and he should not take the loyalty oath. This is from Joan. The indictments will be a major topic of this debate, and he needs to have some of this settled before he talks. He canceled his press conference on Monday on the advice of his lawyers. When have you ever known this guy to take the advice of his lawyers? Remember, it was the lawyers who said, turn all the damn documents back over to the archivist. And he worked around them to have his chauffeur / Navy guy move the boxes around. When has this guy ever taken advice from anybody on anything? Starting now makes him seem like he's getting soft. Maybe that's it. Maybe this is just a sign of weakness. Not going to show up on the stage, not going to say anything, not going to reveal the evidence that the election was stolen, just going to kind of, write it out. That's the fighter we need. 303-696-1971. Mike, you're on 710. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what I told Randy about whether or not Trump should attend the first debate. The best advice I would give Trump is, well, Ronald Reagan did not attend the first debate, I believe, or maybe more than one. And like I told Randy, anytime you can emulate Ronald Reagan in any way, shape, form, or fashion, do it.
Except when has Trump ever emulated Ronald Reagan?
He would if he doesn't attend the first debate. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not sure that he would do it because Reagan did it. And I don't know the answer. That's interesting. I want to look that up. I don't know if that happened or not. But I mean, this is a guy who has felt free to trash talk Republicans in and out of office. That's anathema to the Reagan 11th commandment. Thou shalt not speak ill of Republicans.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
Do you think it's a sign of weakness?
For not to attend the debate?
Mm-hmm.
No, I would, like I said, I'd go back in the archives and I'd look and, it'd be difficult, but I'd see how Reagan handled it, what he said, and
In 1980, you're saying? It's got to be 80 because nobody would have opposed him in his reelect, right? Was it 76?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it was. I think it was in the 80s. He
got to be 1980.
During the primaries, he was ahead in the polls amongst all the candidates, and he thought, I guess he thought, why risk it? Why?
Yeah. Mike, do you think that Trump should take the loyalty pledge, which is kind of a gatekeeper?
I knew you were going to.
Yeah.
Knew you were going to ask me that one. And the polls that under not sure put me under not sure.
Why? I think it's because you want him to take it, but you don't want to discount him if he doesn't.
Yeah. I just have mixed feelings about it. I did similarly when in 2016 he didn't take the,
he didn't. You're right. Troy here on the YouTube texted in, I don't think DJT should take the pledge because I don't feel like the GOP was loyal to Trump during his first term. One, irrelevant. The whole party was not in a position to support him. Certain individuals didn't, but you're right. You're right, man. He did not take the pledge in 2016 before his first term. So this guy has never shown a commitment to the Republicans other than as a vehicle to get him into the White House. Does that bug you?
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. He's a very much a nominal Republican, and I'm a registered independent. I feel like I'm more Republican than Trump.
Mike, that could be true. Mike, you have talked us through this last segment, and I can't thank you enough. Keep calling in, man. I love the phone call, and I think he's right. He is a nominal Republican. That's the best way to put it. The Republican Party is just a vehicle, man, to get him where he wants to go, and there's no reason to pledge loyalty to a vehicle. I mean, it's transactional, his commitment to the party. But for us, man, it's diehard. I don't know. Listen, we're going to be back on Monday, 6 to 10 a.m. I'll be with you every day next week. You stick around. Deb Flora at 3, Stefan at 4, all the big wigs in between Kirk, Prager, Gorka. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.